What's up, Samantha? How you doing? Greetings, everybody. Blessings, blessings, blessings. Good evening, good evening, good evening, good evening, good evening, good evening, you all. Elaine, what's up? 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 Nico, blessings to you. Anelda, Mario, my brother. How are things? I trust that all is well. Kenroy Thomas, how you doing? Samantha, Elaine, Denise, how you doing? Navlet, welcome in, welcome in, welcome in, everybody. Welcome in. So we continue the discussions on this very interesting topic of FinSac and the 1990s, a period that we must never forget, and not just not forget, but a period that we should never repeat. Welcome in, Navlet. How is Florida? I trust that you guys are doing well. And for all my friends and family in Florida, I trust that you all survive and are doing well. I know the recovery might take some time, but I trust that you all will recover and return to normal life. So, FinSac on the 1990s, a period that saw some serious blow dealt to the Jamaican economy. And one of the things that we strive to look at is we've looked at the impact of it last week. We spoke to Miss Yula Gray Baker. We spoke to Mr. Meshach Willis. And we are slated to be joined again this week by Miss Baker, Mrs. Baker. We were supposed to be having the great gentleman, Mr. Godfrey Dyer, but unfortunately, he won't be able to join us this evening. So we are hoping that next week we will have him on. It's going to be interesting to get his perspective on what took place then. And also we want to look at his contribution to the Jamaica Hotel and Tourism Association on the tourism industry overall. But what we want to look at this evening, folks, is really to look at some of the policies that really cause FinSac. Because interestingly, what you guys must remember is that during the 1990s, or well, in the 1980s, Jamaica started out on the back foot in that we were coming off the brink of an economic disaster during the 1970s when bad economic policies plunged us into recession and a loss of our GDP, significant loss in our GDP. Most of those things happen because of poor policy, bad policy. And that's why it is said that good policies matters. It matters in any country when you implement good policies. Because if you don't implement good policies, you are doomed to be in trouble. You're doomed to be in trouble. And one of the things, and policies is not necessarily just simply what you implement by way of macro or micro. Policies also have to do with your foreign policies, your domestic policies. How do you relate to foreign countries? How do you deal with global crisis? How do you align yourself as a country? And those were some of the fundamental mistakes that Jamaica made in terms of our policy direction. In the 1970s, when we had that global, what we dubbed then the Cold War, Jamaica's decision to side with the Russians was perhaps the worst foreign policy position we have ever taken in this country's history, knowing very well that our closest trading partner up north was the Americans, and we chose to go with the Russians. That was perhaps the biggest mistake that this country has ever made. Have we recovered from that? No, because it cost us a significant portion of our GDP. Remember, between 1967 and 72, Jamaica grew by 18.01%. And the Manley regime would have taken over in 1972. When they got the country, we were growing at 18.01%. And by 1974, we were stone broke. Why? Because bad policies. And every time that a government takes up office and decide to implement bad policies, you will get the result that we got. We got that bad result in the 1970s, where we lost a significant portion of our GDP, and we came back in the 1980s under Eddie Seaga. We had some good policies again that brought the economy back up. We moved from a negative 5%, and we were back up to growing again at somewhere in the region of 7 to 12%. Now, it was that period of the 1980s that saw people like the Yula Gray Bakers and the Meshach Willises and the Dan Crawfords and the Pantons and all of those persons growing. Because when you create good policies, your middle class move up, your lower class come up to the middle. But if you choose policies that seeks to dole out money to individual, you absolutely will not grow the country's economy. And that, to me, is a fundamental difference between the two political parties and how they manage the affairs of Jamaica. So we grew the economy, and those were good policies. Again, fast forward to 1989, when we made that colossal error in judgment and we voted in change government again, that came in with another series of bad policies. The 90s saw what bad policies can do. And this evening, what we want to do is to get a first-hand understanding from Mrs. Baker and her understanding of what were some of the policies that the then administration would have implemented that caused what we now know as the FinSAC crisis, and the fact that 44,000 businesses collapsed because of bad economic policies. So in the 1970s, it would have been bad economic policies coupled with poor foreign policy as well. In the 1990s, it was more of a domestic policy that really plunged us over the precipice, and we have not recovered since. Because time wasted can never regain, and we have wasted two significant periods in Jamaica's history that we are now struggling to rebuild. Joining us again this evening is Miss Yula Gray Baker, no stranger anymore. Hi, Miss B. How you doing?
Hi, I'm good, thanks.
Awesome. Good to have you again. As you would have known, we are still on the series of going through the 1990s. And we invited you here this evening again because we wanted to delve a little deeper into some of the policies that caused the FinSAC debacle in the 1990s. So I wanted to get your view on that. So talk to us about some of those policies that you saw implemented that really ruined businesses in the 90s.
Well, before I go there,
Absolutely.
I'm glad you went back to the 1970s when Michael Manley was in power. Because
Yes.
if you remember the policies that he came with, and he gave Jamaicans an option. If you didn't like my policies, there are 5 flights a day to
5 flights a
Miami.
day.
Be on one of them. You remember that? You
Yes,
remember
I
that?
remember 5 flights a day. If you're
Okay.
not in favor of these policies, hit the road. And the
Hit the
Jamaican
road.
middle class and people with capital, people who had money to invest in Jamaica, they did took those flights.
Well, I tell you,
They-
I took one of those flights. And
oh
thank God
wow,
I did.
wow.
Because I understand that people, believe that how I got money to do what I was doing, whatever. When I took that one of those flights, it was 1976. My two
Yes.
children, two daughters were babies. And I went to Florida, got job with the University of Miami. And for 21 years, I worked there in the Cancer Research Center. I did not go back to Jamaica until my two daughters graduated from university. So when I went back to Jamaica, my husband was in Jamaica working, and he had his construction company. And in the construction industry, for who don't know how it runs, we don't have money to put up our own thing. We get the jobs from companies or corporations or whatever entity who has buildings to put up. They will hire a contractor. They have the bidding basis where you bid and the lowest bidder gets the
Mhm.
job. Well, my husband was one of those contractors, and he had been in business for 50 odd years doing the same thing, making money. A lot of those buildings in New Kingston was put up by my husband's company. So
Yes.
it's in 1990 now, when, because the process when you have a company, a construction company, was you'd get a job, uh, say from Grace Kennedy, and the
Mhm.
project that you get to do values at 200 million. Nobody has that amount of money put on to do
You have to go to
anything.
the bank.
So the contractor would take, once he gets the job, he would take the contract to the bank, negotiate with the bank for loans for starting this job. And the procedure is every month
You draw
you
down.
you draw down from that, from the
You
from
pay
the
your
owner.
loan and you pay your
And
staff and you
loan
grow it.
right. So, and most of this money wasn't really sent to us to go deposit in the bank. The way my husband ran his business was the company would send the money direct to the bank. They would take out
Oh,
their principal
so there's
and
no
their
there's no
interest.
there's no possibility of any misappropriation there.
Misappropriate, exactly.
Right.
Because we have to make sure we can pay back the loan in order to
Mhm.
get another one for some other project. So for the what brought my husband down was a project that he got, because the owner of that project also ran into the same FinSec issues. And the and it wasn't that my husband did not pay back the money. He got a loan of $10 million for this particular project.
Mhm.
He, over the months, he paid and paid. He paid the interest rate when he signed the agreement with the bank. At
Mhm.
that time, the interest rate was 18%.
18.
18, 1 8.
Mhm.
In a few months, that 1 8 went to 50%. Then it went to 120%. And of course, the money that you're drawing from the owner, although at times it will pay back a part of the loan, once the interest rate started going up like that, you get into difficulties because you have other um, jobs and things at your office that you have to be paying for, utilities, rent, whatever. You still had to be paying. So and most of the contractors, this is what they got into, where the
Mhm.
interest rate went up so high.
They couldn't keep
So
up.
they could not keep up. So based on that $10 million loan that my husband got. He paid back 52 million.
He paid back 52 million from 10 million
52
alone.
million from 10. And after the paying back 52 million, they still told him he owed 87 million.
So let me ask a question. Because, Miss Baker, when I spoke to Mr. Godfrey Dyer, he said he paid back a significant amount of money, but was told that he still owed more than he actually paid, which is
That's right.
10 times more than he
You
borrowed.
see? Exactly.
So let
That's
me ask you,
what we were going
how
to
does a
do.
bank, how does any financial institution explain that to you? Were you given a spreadsheet, a monetization form that says this is how we arrive at this number?
No, sir. Even at the point where FinSAC was formed, and we had an attorney make up a document for us to send to the bank and to Jamaica Redevelopment to give us statement of account to let us know how you arrive at it. We never could get a statement of account. You never could get a statement of account. So our constitutional right there, that was one that just never. And you know how we found out what was happening, and how we finally realized how the figures run like that. Because when you go to the bank, you have to put up a collateral.
Yes.
You have to take the title of property or properties.
Yes.
So in order to get that $10 million
to secure your loan, eh?
My husband had 4 properties that he
Yes.
had to put up to keep up with that kind of payment.
Mm-hmm.
So with the payments going up like that and no statement of account, in order to save and hope that somewhere down the road, you can pay this off, until it reached the point where you realize, what's the point?
There's no end in sight.
There's no end in sight. Because when you took your title to the bank, sir, NCB, BNS, whichever bank, what you didn't know and what we found out was that the very bank manager or other personnel within those banking institutions would use your title to borrow money for themselves.
But
And
Mrs.
you
Baker,
don't know this.
Mrs.
But that's
Baker,
why you could not get statement of account. They
but
couldn't
hold
tell
on a
you this.
second. But hold on one second, Mrs. Baker, because last time we had a discussion here, matter of fact, the first time I spoke to Mr. Willis, he mentioned this very vaguely. And it caught my attention when he mentioned it. But when I spoke to you last week, you reiterate the same thing.
Yeah.
And I'm saying to myself, this is serious, because I don't think, I have been researching and discussing FinSAC for years. And that aspect of it was never something I was ever told that this happened. So no understanding that you brought your loan in. For when I listened to Mr. Willis in particular, and I said, but his loan and loans like the one you're talking about, your loan, would have ballooned to this exorbitant figure. But the truth is, you were paying on your loan.
Of course, everybody
but
was paying. They call us bad debtors. That's what they termed us, bad debtors, because we weren't paying. We were paying more. But we were paying for other people's loan taken out from our titles. That is what Omar Davis didn't tell Jamaica. So if you go down, I'm willing to bet you that if you go down to the title office now,
yes,
Monday morning, and say to them, give them a folio number and whatever to get a title of someone who was FinSAC, they will tell you that it's not there. Okay? Where is it? Where is that title?
So if the title is not
the title's office,
put them where?
I'm not going to tell you where. I know where they are. But you see, the whole idea was that these FinSAC people were never ever to see their titles again.
Wow.
That was the strategy.
Yes.
And they all benefited. PNP, JLP, they all benefited from it.
And 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 I agree with you. I think that both sides of the coin benefited from
All
the
of them.
tragedy. But
All of them.
here's my argument though. Because Mrs. Baker, I bought a house in Georgia. The house I purchased valued probably $400,000 or $500,000. But I only paid probably 200,
Mm-hmm.
about $200,000.
Mm-hmm.
So the truth is, was I concerned about the person who lost that house back in 2009? I bought it in 2012. Was I concerned about that individual? Absolutely not.
Because you don't know their
Because I don't
circumstances.
know their circumstances.
Exactly.
I'm just an investor who needed a house, have my money, and I purchased the house.
That's
No.
right.
Here is when it comes to the FinSAC period in Jamaica, and I'm looking at it because both political parties benefit, but one benefit more than the other, and one benefit in a different way than the other. And let me tell you why I'm at that position. The person who create the situation that caused FinSAC is the person I am focused on. Why? Because I cannot view those persons, Mrs. Baker, as an individual who is just out there with some money and want to purchase a piece of asset. I cannot view them from that lens. I have to view them as someone who possibly could have created a scenario to benefit themselves.
Exactly.
And that is what I'm saying. I believe because these guys are not dunce.
Exactly.
And when I listened to you last week and I realized that there's so much that could have been done to stop it, to prevent it,
But
to
they
put a
didn't.
hold on it, and they didn't.
They
That
did
tells
not.
me that there was some deliberate action there. And for that, I have to really put the blame squarely at the feet of those who created
Who
FinSAC.
created the problem?
Yes, because if you
Policies.
create the problem and the policies, then you did it and you benefit from it, then shame on you. Because I can understand the JLP guy who was never a policy maker then. He was merely a guy who probably or a lady who has some money and saw an opportunity and
took it.
took it.
Yeah.
But if you create that thing, Miss B, and knowingly create it, in some instances deliberately,
Deliberately.
a particular way, to destabilize people and take their property, then you have hell to pay. And you must be held to account.
Exactly.
Because
No.
somebody could have stopped these bank managers, bank executives who were misusing people's asset to benefit themselves.
Yeah. Well, the thing about it is that it's after the horse went through the gate that they decided to stop it. And I can't say they realized then. Something must have given from the inquiry. The Bank of Jamaica, the persons who testified on behalf of the Bank of Jamaica, they testified that along the way they asked the then Minister of Finance, let us sit down, give us permission to sit down and work out the loans with the debtors.
And they refused.
And they refused.
And that is
now, if that
part.
is not intentional, what is?
That is another part of the saga that disturbs me. Is the fact that this crisis is on us. We are here, right? The financial sector collapsed. People are losing their properties. The properties are amalgamated and are put in a particular fund or organization. You're at that stage. There's nothing can change that. We are here.
Mm-hmm.
There's a decision to be made as to how do we disburse of these assets. There's a choice to sell it to some guy in Texas,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
For 50 cents, for 40 cents on the dollar or 20 cents on the dollar. That's
Mm-hmm.
one choice. Option number one, to
Mm-hmm.
sell it to Jocelyn for 20 cents on the dollar,
Mm-hmm.
or to sell it back to the previous owners for 50 cents on the dollar. That's what I was told. That's what I am reading in all the documents I've read. That the option was to sell it to the debt collector
Mm-hmm.
for a particular rate,
That's right.
but also there was another option to sell it back to people like you, Mrs.
That's
Baker,
right.
for
But
a higher rate.
they wouldn't.
But they wouldn't accept the higher
They
rate.
won't
So
do
I'd
that.
love for somebody to explain to me, because there must be an explanation for that.
No,
There
listen
has
to
to
the
be a justification.
listen to the logic. No, when they
Yeah.
sell it to Jamaica Redevelopment Foundation,
Mhm.
the agreement that they had with Jamaica Redevelopment Foundation was that for every property that once they presented Jamaica Redevelopment Foundation with the properties, the titles, the everything on all the properties. The agreement was that for every property that Jamaica Redevelopment Foundation sells,
Mhm.
the Jamaica government should get back, I think it was 30% of whatever they sell it for.
Oh,
Then a couple of years, didn't you? The Minister of Finance, Nigel Clark, gave a speech saying
yeah.
that was not being collected. Why?
Mhm.
Why? How does that benefit Jamaica, sir? They gave away the properties. They didn't sell them. They gave them away.
So the individuals who would have indicated an interest in purchasing these properties,
Mm-hmm.
you're saying that the monies that were to be collected from these properties were not collected.
Well, let me put it this way. If my husband borrowed 10 and paid back 52, them collect it back from him. But yet his property was given to Jamaica Redevelopment Foundation, who sold his property and collected more.
Yes.
And the head of FinSAC at the time, Errol Campbell, when he was asked by one of the commissioners, what portion of the loan or the debt or the property was given to Jamaica Redevelopment Foundation, the principal or the balance? The principal. So Jamaica, even though we borrow 10 and we pay back 50, the Jamaica Redevelopment still get the property basically for nothing and sell it back at whatever they wanted to.
But this is me. This just not making.
It sounds like a Nancy story, doesn't it?
Yeah, it can't. It is impossible for me to accept a lot of the stuff that and I'm not saying that what you're saying is incorrect, but it's just unbelievable to understand how this thing works. And that's why I am hoping at some point that we'll hear from somebody like Dr. Omar Davis. He's still alive, and I think he owes it to us, not just to pen a letter to the editor, but he owes it to us
to explain to the Jamaican people
yeah,
why he did
because
what he did.
because
And
there
what
might
was the
very well
benefit.
because Mrs. Baker, there might very well be an explanation, don't you think? There have to be.
All I can say, sir, is the explanation. I don't think they have the brain to come up with an explanation that could satisfy any well-thinking Jamaican of what they did. No explanation in the world could satisfy that. Not the trauma, not the deaths, not the suicides, nothing could satisfy it. There was one, I think I told you last week, that of this gentleman who had his property in St. Elizabeth. and his daughter is living in Canada, and she sent me an email that she had been looking for me for 2 years, and he had a property in St. Elizabeth, and it's a neighbor who called him to tell him that his property was sold. He didn't know. When he tried to had somebody in Jamaica try to get his title from the title office, they couldn't find it. So he hired an attorney, a firm of attorney, who wrote to Jamaica Redevelopment Foundation. And she sent me a copy of the letter where Jamaica Redevelopment Foundation responded to them, to her attorneys, telling them that that property was sold from, I think, 2009, and whatever documentation, they have no more documentation on it because of the statute of limitation yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Now, do you know that any such statute? Land is something that don't disappear.
It can't go anywhere.
It either pass from me to you, from you to somebody else. So the title has to be there. There is no title. Why is there no title for it, sir?
But if somebody occupies the space now, the land now,
then he must have a title.
Would have been generated.
Mm-hmm.
And there would have to be a footprint.
So unless you is the folio number that you're going to have to use
to get a new title.
To get the title. And they're not able to get it. So where is it? And who has it?
And a lot of questions to answer. And I'm hoping that at some point these questions, because it is hard for us to erase from our memory as a country an entire period such as the 1990s, Mrs. B, that devastated so many persons like yourself.
Mr. Chopper, let me tell you something. Sometimes, you see, and even after a period of time, having gone through it, the inquiry went on for 2.5 years. And going through it, and when you listen to the stories that the people tell, when you hear about a death, there is one gentleman who, when he was told by Jamaica Redevelopment, he only owed 12 million. He borrowed the money from friends and family overseas, went down to Jamaica Redevelopment to pay the money. When he pays, after him done pay it,
them
tell him, say, oh, plenty more. The man died within months. And that's what happened. And at a point in time, you feel as if you're carrying the burden of the 44,000 people.
Let me tell you, the only crime that persons like yourself and others who suffered because of bad policies is because you're ambitious, hardworking, and wanted to live above the law. You wanted to live
a decent and give your family a good life.
A fair shake.
A fair shake. And that is why I tell you that I'm glad that when Michael Manley offered me a flight to Miami, I took it. But I left my husband in Jamaica.
But tell me about that period also, Mrs. B, because I want to jump back to that period of the 1970s. A lot of Jamaicans tend to skip. I stay within the 1970s. And I wanted to go back to the 70s a little bit, because Jamaica grew in the 60s, Mrs. Baker.
Grew
very well. We had a lot of industries.
Yeah.
And we had a lot of, just like we're having now, it's a similar period in the 60s. And when we came into the 70s, from your recollection, what happened?
You know, I can remember people, when I decided to leave Jamaica and go to the United States, I remember people telling me how unpatriotic I was. But I had to, you know what drove me to that?
Tell us.
My last daughter, I have 2 daughters, and the youngest one was just about a year old, and I'm going home one evening and went in the supermarket to buy milk, and there was no milk on the shelf. The shelves were empty. In that Michael Manley period, the shelves were empty. I had opened up a little store in Havendale Shopping Center, Havendale Plaza.
Yes.
Quite a few of us had
That
stores
is
there.
down at the bottom there, closer to
Right across
right,
from the
right.
Catholic Church there.
Yeah. First
Yeah,
right there,
had
yeah.
a store there, and I had to when when the trauma that my husband was going through, and I said to him, I said, you know something, I am going to leave Jamaica. I decided to apply for a visa to the US, and I came to the US. I lived in Florida for 21 years and just visiting Jamaica back and forth because I decided to stay here. There were a lot of opportunities. And working at the University of Miami, and in the section that I was, it was very intriguing to me.
Hmm.
And I learned a lot because I learned how, which helped me a lot because when FinSac hit, my husband was diagnosed with prostate cancer.
Hmm.
Additionally, the burden, the stress, that's what caused it. And a lot of the people, a lot of the bank, the business people, because of FinSac, were diagnosed with Neville Box. Neville Box was the first president of the FinSac Association. And within a year of having it, Neville died. He had 5 cancers in his body. 5.
Hmm.
I mean, it tore his family apart. It tore all of us apart. Because the day that they were throwing us out of our home, Neville lived up the road from us, and he was passing and saw the people at the gate and realized what was happening. And when he asked them to let him in, they said no, and never used his vehicle and went right down the road and drive it at full speed through the
Oh.
gate and knocked the gate out.
Mm.
And never said, the tears were running down his eyes. He couldn't believe. Because we had spoken to Daryl Vaz, we had spoken to different politicians and asked them, what can you guys do to assist us?
Right. But at
And
the time, these guys were in the opposition, no?
they were in opposition.
Right. And they were championing this whole pushing this narrative and exposing what was happening.
Exactly, because
Right?
I sent you that
Yes, yes,
parliament speech that Bruce
yes,
Golding,
yes,
and
yes.
when I tell you something that I know as a fact, there were some of those ministers that were buying the properties, and Bruce Golding, I lift my hat to that man.
Yes.
Bruce Golding told him, don't buy it. It does not look good. Do not
Right.
buy it. He went ahead and bought it anyhow.
Mm-mm. Wow. I mean, I don't know, but for me, I think this is something that there's some questions to be answered. I'm hoping though that some of the major players, some of those who are now saying that they were the architect
Mm-hmm.
of 1990s, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's an aspect of it, that was very interesting to me, and it perks my interest last week when you mentioned a particular minister of government at the time, a member of the PNP, who was a top tier minister, and a family member of his was one of the legal counsel to FinSac.
Mm-hmm.
And when you guys requested information on a letter above that individual's name, was a letter that says that you were not to be given a statement of account or any
Mm-hmm.
information for that
Yeah.
matter.
Yeah.
Now, the question I want to ask is those ministers at the time, because the 1990s, if my memory serves me right, the People's National Party would have been the one in power. Here's the difficulty I have. If those ministers at the time benefited from the sale of properties then, then something is wrong with that, Mrs. Baker.
Of course.
Because they were the policy makers at the time.
Exactly. Exactly.
I'm not saying that the JLP members who might have benefited should walk scot-free. However, there's a total difference between the two. Because one of those persons were the architect
Detect. Exactly.
of the situation.
I
And
tell
it
you,
is,
I tell you something. There was my husband had a friend who called him one day, and this friend is a very close relative of one of the government ministers.
Mhm.
And he said to my husband, "Tell me something. You're having problems FinSac with FinSac?" And my husband explained to him what was happening. So when my husband said to him, "Well, how did you know? How did you find out?" You know what he told my husband?
I have no clue.
He was up at a certain minister relative's home. It was a Sunday evening. And they had a list of FinSac properties and other
Oh,
government ministers there picking out which ones they wanted.
oh,
Yes.
oh.
Yes.
So they were literally having an auction within themselves
Yes.
as to which one came first.
Exactly. They used to come to out of the house on a Sunday evening with camera taking pictures and want to come inside to look and see what in there looks like.
Right. So that is why I'm saying to you, there's a total difference between those persons. Because, let me tell you why what you're saying here is not far-fetched. And it is not unreasonable either for us to come to the conclusion that these persons who organized and engineered that failed policy of the 1990s have questions to answer. Let me
Mm-hmm.
tell you why. I can't quote the year now, but I will say this much, that one minister, one cabinet minister at the time, who testified in the FinSac inquiry, he said that at bare minimum, some members of his political party, his government, should be charged for insider trading.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
for those of you who don't know what insider trading means, it means that you have inside intimate knowledge of transactions before it becomes public. So you have an unfair advantage.
Exactly. Exactly. Well,
And that
in
came from a member of government at the time.
yeah. Well, Omar Davis testified in Omar Davis's testimony. He
Yes.
stated verbatim that the banks were dealing in activities that turn his hair white. The banks are dealing in activities, not the debtors, the banks.
But did he ever say what those dealings
He
were?
did not say, when the commissioner asked him to explain, he took the fifth.
So don't you
And
think
but what he additionally stated was that certain files were sent to the director of public prosecution. So what became of those files? What happened? Why did they have to go to the director of public prosecution? If it did not have criminal activity, what was the purpose of sending it to the director of public prosecution?
do you think we'll ever get answers to some of these questions, Mrs. B?
I don't think so. I don't think so, because they're not about to accept the responsibility of what they caused and
But let me
take.
ask you this though. They're not, they weren't, well, they haven't accepted responsibilities openly, because you would have heard people like Dr. Omar Davis stated that if he could have done some things different, he would have. You would have heard the same sentiments coming from Michael Manley regarding the 70s.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
nobody really come out and take responsibility and say, we were
Responsibility.
wrong. We
Yeah.
did this incorrect. No.
Yeah.
But my question is, now that this administration decide to release the transcript, which I believe is much better than the report, because a report is merely a summary
Mm-hmm.
of the transcript, and you
Have
can
they
tweak
have they released a transcript?
well, they are in the process of uploading it to a special website to make it accessible to everybody. Haven't
Okay.
seen it yet,
I look
but
forward
I
to
am
that.
keeping all my fingers and toes crossed, and I'm hoping, because I have a lot of confidence in Dr. Nigel Clark, and this did not come from some political platform. He said this in Parliament, and I have every confidence in him. If there's one minister of government that I have a lot of confidence in, is Dr. Nigel Clark. And he said that they will not move towards releasing a report for FinSAC. He's going to go directly to the transcript. And I believe that the transcript will give you details that a report would not give you. And it will be,
Or why a report is not given.
but also that will be a part of it too.
Yeah.
Because one of the difficulty I gather, and I think you understand too, the report should have been done from in the 19 from after the inquiry.
Yeah, the inquiry was completed 2011, November 2011.
Right. And the JLT lost the election right after that.
Mm-hmm.
So the PNP would have assumed responsibility to release him.
Mm-hmm.
They did not, for whatever the reasons are. I mean, I can't deny what they are saying. And for the person, just a second, for the person in the chat who is alluding and calling ministers and members of parliament's name, I'm telling you to desist, or else I'm going to block you. We're not here to defame anybody. We have no evidence of anyone doing anything that you are reporting here. So please desist from calling anybody's name, okay? Thank you. Yeah, so I believe that one of the reasons that would have been given, and like I said, I believe that while they did not, the reasons the PNP would not have released a report then, because we were only about a year or two after the inquiry,
Mm-hmm.
which was adequate enough time for them to put together a report and release him. But I believe they dragged their feet on it because it would have had serious implication.
I think so too.
It would have taken about a year or so to put it together.
Mm-hmm.
And that would have bring them from 2011, 2012 into 2013.
Mm-hmm.
By 2014, they were steering down the barrel of an election, which was due by 2016.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a mere political maneuvering, I'm assuming, why they did not release the report. But here come the GLP coming in 2016
Mm-hmm.
and recognize that the FinSAC report should have been released from 2013, 2014, and it never happened. They came in, and I would say that they are also guilty of
Exactly.
not expediting that process.
Exactly.
It should have been expedited between 2016, 2018, thereabout. No, you have to put the blame where it belongs. And I think both political parties can and must take some responsibility for it not being released. However, we have to give credit where credit is due. That move now by Dr. Nigel Clark, which says we're going to do the transcript, we're going to upload it to website, so every Jamaican, whether local or overseas, will have access to it. The newspapers will take it, they will analyze it, they will report on it, the universities will study it, and the average Jamaican can go research it. I believe that that's a good one. And I did not, the last time I checked, there wasn't a timeline as to when it will be completed. But I will tell you that I will not rest until that transcript is uploaded and every Jamaican have access to it, and we can better understand what took place, because what we are discussing here, and we started from last week, is mind-boggling, because there's no way that some of these things that we're talking about here, Mrs. Baker, should have been allowed to happen without any
Explanation.
explanation, at least.
But you know, you want to know something else, sir?
Yes.
Even at the point where we realized that we were losing our properties, we approached the government asking them, can you find a way to get some funds that the same debtors could go back, because we had a list of, I would say, at least 40 debtors who could have gone back in business, and we wanted to. All we needed was the opportunity, but we didn't
So there
have
was
the money.
nothing put in place, not a little funding. So let's get these guys back up on their
Back in
feet.
business. Nothing. Nothing. We had a list of, and the different activities that each one of these person or company entities would get themselves involved in. Some of us decide that we would your company and my company, let us work together.
Merge. So it makes,
Merge.
yes.
Nothing. Nothing.
So there was nothing to
It was
get you
just like
guys
the
up.
door was just slammed in our faces.
And the question is, even if you're going to slam the door, at least you deserve to know why.
Exactly. Exactly.
So let's
Exactly.
go back to the policy that caused this now, Mrs. Baker. In the 1990s, the JLP lost the election in 1989. The PNP took office there and then under the leadership of Michael Manley. What happened that propelled us into this failed economic policy of the 1990s? The actual policy itself.
You know, sir, I wish I could explain it to you. I was not in Jamaica totally at that time. I was in and out, going back and forth.
Yes.
But there were, from what I gather from the documentations that I have seen, bad bank policies, has to do with the insurance companies as well. Bad policies by government. They were overseen and they were not about to change. I have a feeling that it could have been that persons who instituted the policies, not wanting to be targeted as a responsible person for this thing, whatever it is you did, and they started covering up from each other. But the you see, when and who made the decision? Who made the decision that rather than let the loans, the money, everything remain in Jamaica, why take it and sell it to an overseas entity?
That's another thing too.
Why?
And that's some of the things, Miss B, that I believe if I were to sit down with Dr. Omar Davis, one of the key questions I'd ask him is, why is it that you made a decision, or why is it a decision was taken to sell to an overseas company at a lower rate than
Because I
selling
tell
it
you, and you know why I ask? Because a Jamaican entity offered to buy back the debts and help out the Jamaican people, and sent a deposit to the government, and they refused. Okay? A Jamaican entity offered, and they refused.
So is it a case that is it that we were anti-Jamaican businesses at, is it that we're just anti-Jamaican? Is it that these guys were set out for you to fail? What
But
is it?
Sir, I
I mean,
wish
I
I
don't
knew
know.
the answer. I wish I knew the answer.
But it ties back to something, and I hate to sound political, Mrs. Baker. I hate to invoke politics, but I have absolutely no choice because the decisions were made by politicians.
Exactly.
It wasn't the clergy who decide to invoke high interest rate as a method of mapping up liquidity in an economy. It wasn't the church
Exactly.
who did it. It wasn't
Exactly.
anybody. It was politicians. So
Politicians.
for me to say I'm not invoking politics,
In
it's
it.
kind of bizarre. I
As far
need
as
to.
I am concerned, so JLP, PNP is one and the same. None
Well,
different.
I have a difference of opinion where that is concerned, and I tell you why I have a difference of opinion. It's not because I I support one over the other. That's not really it. My difference is based on facts because the only thing I can present is facts. And Mrs. Baker, if I were to look at Jamaica, which I've done several times, from 1962 until 2024 today, and if I were to examine the period in which the JLP rule versus the period in which the PNP rule, it is clear that every single time that the JLP is in government in Jamaica, the country do a lot better than
And
when
I
the PNP.
agree with you, sir. I agree with you. The
And it
only
is on
thing
that
is,
basis. It is on that basis, though, while I will always disagree because I don't believe that they are both the same. I know both of them
well,
have fault.
why? Okay, well, why then, when the JLP was in power, why didn't they see to it that the FinSac report was done and made public?
Well, all right. So, and that's why I've said to you, remember my timeline was the FinSac inquiry concluded in 2011.
Mm-hmm.
The JLP lost the election
Mm-hmm.
in 2011.
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe that there was adequate time for the Bruce Golding led administration to complete that report. I don't believe they had adequate time. So when the PNP took
But
over,
sir, even if they didn't have enough time, it could have been started
and I
and,
think it
and mo-
was. I think it was. And the transcript is going to prove to us that some work on the report was done, a significant portion of it. A matter of fact, in 2017, the JLP government stated that the report there was some work done on the report and needed to be concluded. However, I believe that some members, I think the head commissioner at the time was deceased. He died, and there were some. I got the explanation. I'm gonna find it because I want to publish it because I want everybody to understand that I'm not making any excuse because I've already put on record that I believe that between 2016 and 2020, the JLP should have released that report.
Mhm.
However, they stated at the time cost was an issue because 2016 saw us re-energizing the economy and plunging money into revving up the economy to get us to where we are today.
Mhm.
So I understand that they might have had some excuse. And I will buy the excuse. You know why I'll buy it, Mrs. B? Because of what they announced now. What they have announced to me said that they were not of the intention to not release the report. I believe that they genuinely didn't do it because of economic constraint, which was what they had said in 2017. The big issue is the person who had the momentum at the time when the inquiry was concluded and had 3-4 years between
Mhm.
2011 and 2016, they could have released it, and I believe that they did not. You know why? Because they had more to lose when that report was released than the JLP. I am not saying that the JLP is scot-free, but the truth is, and I will go back to the analogy I used earlier. If I have some money and I go and purchase a property, do I really go and look at the history of the property to see who owned it? And I purchased a property, Mrs. Baker, in Jamaica. I purchased a property on Hope Road in 2009. It's an apartment. And in 2011, I was at a meeting of the HOD. And we were talking, and they told me that the gentleman who owned, the couple who owned the apartment that you now own, they bought it 3 years before, and they had to leave. They just left and heartbroken. I said, what happened? And they said, they had a young child, and the child was playing in the courtyard. And there was an open manhole there.
Wow.
And the child
Fell
fell
in
in
it.
and died.
Wow.
I own the apartment. I have a son, me have a little boy when me love to death. So when I hear that story, it resonates with me.
Exactly.
So how do you feel now? You own the property? Do I now say, boy, I can't own the property, I can't buy it? Because the story is sad. So I can understand the persons who made a genuine purchase of FinSac properties without really giving any thought to the persons who had it before. But if the persons who create that, the man who left the manhole open, caused the death of the child, and chased the family out, and then him come buy the property, and he did that deliberately because he knew if the picnic get killed, the family are going to leave and him get the house. If you do it deliberately and benefit from it, then you have hell to pay.
That's right.
And that is what I'm laying squarely at the feet of those who were members of the government at the time.
But also, so you have to take a look at it from a point of view of, okay, the government that was in office at the time, and another government who
came afterwards
and took over. Now, for example, the policies that were made, say for example, some of the policies that was made by the PNP government, the JLP government decide, boy, we take over, we have to go live up to these same policies. There is a particular policy or a particular term in the agreement that was made between the Jamaica Redevelopment Foundation and Jamaica and those properties, which states, I don't remember word for word, I would have to go and look at it, but it basically states that if in their carrying out the business of sale of these properties and they happen to get sued by one of the debtors, the Jamaican taxpayers would have to pay for it.
So they were, in other words, they were backed by the same taxpayers,
by the same
who they were shafting.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So anything this one signed for, when the other one come, it's in their hands, and it's same benefits.
Well,
the same terminology.
I can say to you though, Mrs. B, because they said out of adversity comes good. The financial sector was regulated, heavily regulated after FinSac, because there was a lot of stuff that we learned after FinSac. And you know what is so funny though? We talk about the 90s, the 70s, Mrs. B, and the failed policies that brought us negative economic growth through 1972 into 1980. But another part of our history, because history must always be our guide, If you know not from whence you came, you know not where you're going. If we made those bad economic policies in the 1970s, we came back in the 1980s and we did what was correct. We target the middle class. We
Mm-hmm.
bring people up. A lot of the houses that were owned in Cherry Gardens, I don't know if a lot of you guys know this, but a lot of the houses in Cherry Gardens and Norbrook were people from downtown.
I know. I
People
know.
from below Crossroad will buy house up there.
Yeah.
It's people who used to take the ICI here Jamaica plane with them boxes, go to Curacao and Panama, go buy goods and sell,
Yeah.
and they buy house up there. You know?
Mm-hmm.
Those were the persons. People believe that FinSac targeted rich people. No, it was average Jamaicans who lost their
Average
money,
Jamaican.
lost their property.
That's right.
But those average Jamaicans were given an opportunity to grow in a period that was specifically geared towards building up the middle class.
Building and
Yes,
building the country, because
yes, middle class is who build country now.
one of the gentlemen that was FinSac, he made generators, I think it was, for JPS.
Mhm.
And when, I don't remember who it was, because it was a while ago, when he went home one day to find out that somebody had gone into his property and emptied the drums with the oil and thing all over the property. And the man he literally months after that had a heart attack and died. And his son, who was in business with him, also in a couple of months after died.
This person is asked me to ask you what would happen. What do you think would happen if FinSac wasn't created?
Is that a logical question?
I'm trying to figure out the rationale because, let me tell you what I think.
FinSac could have been created. It's the terms of reference. FinSac could have been created to solve the problem. It's the terminology and the terms of reference that turned it into what it turned out to be.
And by the terms of reference, you're talking about instruction
The
given.
policies that govern FinSac.
Yes. And you want to elaborate on that a little bit, Ms. Lee?
Some of the policies, sir. I sent you some copies.
Yes, because some people are of the view, and when I have this discussion elsewhere, a lot of persons are of the view that, hey, you can't bash FinSac, because FinSac was a good thing.
Yeah, what it was created to do, but then persons with authority over it,
manipulated
from my perspective, saw opportunities. And rather than use the opportunities to build up Jamaica, like how the same FinSac people were building Jamaica, they use it for their own personal benefits.
Wow.
If you want, what I can do is send you a list of the policies, and you find a way to print it or
oh yeah, absolutely.
Send the policies and let them look for themselves and read it for themselves.
Because I think the person who's asking this is thinking that, I've heard this before. FinSac should have been the savior, and I can understand. But FinSac was created originally, and if I may say this, FinSac was created to amalgamate the assets and redistribute them or negotiate with
the debtors. The original thing was to negotiate with the debtors. And we were all prepared to negotiate.
Right.
But it never came our way.
Some did. People like Mr. Godfrey Dyer stated that he negotiated his debt and was asked to pay an enormous sum that he paid and still owe. Owe.
How much money do you need to have? I mean, they were just milking people. As I stated, if FinSAC was to help, why is it on a $10 million loan that my husband had? He paid back 52 million and still owed 87 million. How you pencil that out? How do
Just
you
doesn't add
pencil
up.
that out?
Doesn't add up.
It just don't add up.
Doesn't add up. It makes
Right,
absolutely
told
no
you
sense.
last week about the couple that committed suicide
Yes.
in Mandeville and left a
Yes.
note on their dining table stating, I cannot go on one more year with the noose of FinSAC around my
Around
neck.
my neck. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I remember that. But as you state there, here's Godfrey Dyer in
Yeah.
his own words. Stand by.
There's no way we could pay it. By 2007, I think it was, interest rates start moving up. Projection, I should pay off for it in 7 years. 3 months after completion of the project, the interest rates start moving up. By 2006, it peaked at 75% plus 35% penalty. That's 110%. There's no way we could pay it. By 2007, I think it was early 2008, they decided to take over the hotel, which was the bank at the time, NCB. They said I was owing 147 million. By then I had paid 47 million. So I paid 47 million by 2008 and was owing 147 million, coming from a $15 million loan. They took the hotel. I filed a thing in court and decided to fight it. Yeah. 90, I'm sorry, not 2000. Yeah.
97.
92. Yes, 92. Thanks so much for the correction. It looks like yesterday. 1992, I borrowed the money. And it peaked by 1996. And 1998, they took the hotel into receivership. I filed an action in court and decided to fight it. It took about a year. We had about 3 hearings until the court said the bank should show how they arrived at that amount. Of course, the bank couldn't show it. They wouldn't show it. And it kept delaying, and my lawyer started fighting and asked for answer until they decided. By then, now, they turned it over to the FinSAC, and FinSAC was now handling it. They called me in and said, let us talk. And we started talking. Because they couldn't show how they arrived at my paying 47 million and going 147 million. We negotiated, and to get to it very quickly, we settled at, they converted it to US dollar, and we settled at a balance of 1.8 million US. So I took over back the hotel from them, owing them 1.8 million US. I got 5 years to pay that. No more interest will be added. Interest will be frozen. The bottom line is, I finished paying them 2006. By the time I finished, I had paid a total of 150 million for that $15 million loan. That's how it was settled. Jamaican dollars now. Jamaican dollars. I felt that if the government who had stepped in with FinSAC, if they had gone to these individual owners, and me, for instance, having borrowed 15 million, if they had come to me and said, look, we know the circumstance, high interest rate, whatever, let us negotiate a set amount and refinance I think 90% of the borrowers would have their properties today. 90% would. But no, they took it from us. And I was one of the lucky one to negotiate and get back because I fought it in court. But many other people who haven't reached that stage lost their property.
Wow.
Well,
Wow.
you see, sir, the
Wow.
NCB couldn't come up with the answer. And that happened to a very small businessman who had a trucking business. He'd had a small loan. And when he paid, his wife was an accountant, and NCB decided to sue him. And he went home and tell the wife, him say, listen, find all of the receipt them what we pay for this loan, because they can't tell us our own money after we pay so much. And when he looked at the receipt, for every payment he made, the loan number
Was different.
Receipt was different.
Jesus.
And one loan he had.
Mhm.
One loan. So that is when Omar Davis said the bank was dealing in activities that turned his hair white. That must have been one of them.
Oh, wow. Oh,
And
wow.
the interest rates, I know persons whose interest rates went up to as much as 183%.
But who could pay that?
Exactly.
Wow.
Exactly.
Well, there were some persons who would tell you today that they were the architect of that period. And I still believe I'd love to interview them, to have a chat with them. Here we go.
I would love to hear that too. Because I wouldn't be very
Dr. Omar Davis, because I knew him in the financial sector, where I had been like one of the leading corporate lawyers in Jamaica and very involved in financial engineering. And so when he was Minister of Finance, a lot of the things that required industry input, I was one of the representatives of the industry that he would deal with. I got to know him through that. And that's how I got into the PNP, really, through my relation with him. That he would deal with, like corporate lawyers in
and making peace with God and the ancestors.
So I came into the party through Dr. Omar Davis because I knew him in the financial sector, where I had been like one of the leading corporate lawyers in Jamaica and very involved in financial engineering. And so when he was Minister of Finance, a lot of the things that required industry input, I was one of the representatives of the industry that he would deal with. I got to know him through that. And that's how I got into the PNP, really, through my relation with him.
Minister of Finance is more worried about appeasing the credit rating agencies and the capital markets than providing relief for the suffering people of Jamaica. We can always recover lost ground in our effort to lower debt when the crisis has passed. The plan is to reduce the public debt as rapidly as possible to 60% of GDP by March 2028. We believe that Jamaica can afford to slow the pace of debt reduction at this time and use those resources to help the people get through these most difficult times. It is time to focus on helping our people. It is not the time for excessive fiscal conservatism. One thing I love about the Jamaican people is their ability to identify a puppy show.
But you know the real irony of the situation, Madam Speaker? You know the real irony? These are fiscal rules that the opposition leader and myself, among several other senators at the time, helped to put in place. And in opposition, I supported the then government's introduction of the amendments to the Fiscal and Audit Administration Act that strengthened Jamaica's fiscal rules. Mark Golding piloted those amendments in the Senate, and I supported him. So as Minister of Finance, I am abiding by the laws that he and I helped to put in place, and he seeks to label me for doing that. Now, that's what you call an irony. But some people would even call it hypocrisy. You really think that Jamaican people can reason, don't you? Opposition leader cannot, on one hand, claim the high ground of having helped to strengthen Jamaica's fiscal rules, right? He can't claim the high ground of strengthening the fiscal rules. And then on the other, make a proposal, slow the pace of debt reduction, whatever you called it, that if applied would imply an abandonment of them. Choose what you want. You can't occupy both positions.
Wow. So, Mrs. Baker, there you have it. You know, there are still persons here who claim to be the architect proudly of a period. They're proudly. They sight with their shirt up, the suit well tucked in. I was the man.
Yeah. They don't remember people like us. People like us.
No.
Sweep them under the rug. That is all. Mm-hmm.
No, and that is what I'm saying to you. I always like to have a good debate on persons who say, "Why, both political parties are the same, and both of them are the same." And I said, I am not claiming that the one I support is squeaky clean, but I can tell you it is chalk to cheese. And I challenge those persons. I said, let's ground our arguments on facts. Let's not just give our opinion of the both of them. Let us examine the periods. You want to look at crime? We can. You want to look at the economy? We can. You want to look at social development? We can. Infrastructure? We can. And every single time that we sieve through the periods and look at it, we recognize that, I don't know, for some reason, those persons who practice this self, how should I put it? This handout mentality, taking care of individuals other than creating an environment so we can have more Yula Baker who pull themselves up and rise to a certain level in society.
Well, you want
Amisha
to
Willis, yes.
I tell you a story, and this is my personal story, because I understand that some other channel had me saying, asking how I had doing fashion show overseas. As a result of me living in the States for 20 odd years, my children still live in the United States, because when I went back to Jamaica, they didn't. They were on their own, now working, and so on. And as a child growing up, my aunt used to have a little store where she sell fabric. And every time I go in there as a little girl and I see a piece of fabric that I like, I told her she would cut off a piece and put it down and say, whenever you can sew, you can get this and make a dress. And true to life, as a teenager coming up and in my early 20s, I used all of these pieces of fabric to make clothes for different people and for myself. And I was in Chicago with one of my daughters. And there was a fashion show, Chicago Fashion Week. And I went and saw and attended as a spectator. And went back home, and myself and my daughter sat down and talked. And I said, next year I'm going to be in that Chicago Fashion Week. Mm-hmm. And I came back to Jamaica. I made different designs, and there's a Jamaican lady living in Orlando that used to work with the Ministry of Tourism, Jamaica Ministry of Tourism. And she called me and she said to me, they're having a trade show at a certain place in Florida. Would you like to participate with some of your fashion? And she herself had a magazine that she used to sell as featuring a lot of Jamaican tourism, more or less. And she took pictures of some of the designs and had it in the magazine, and a lot of people commented. So I decided to go there and do the trade show. And I said, to do the show, you had to set up a booth with all whatever it is that you have your interest in and you want to dispose of. And I was the only fashion person there, and I was around the trade show. When it was finished, I came back to my booth, and there was a gentleman standing there just pacing up and down. So I didn't know who he was. I just walked into my booth, and he turned around and says, "Are these designs yours?" So I said, "Yes, they're mine." He says, "There's a dress you have there," and he pointed to it. He came and took it out and looked at it. He said, "I would love to buy it for my wife. However, she's not here with me." And the trade show was finishing. It was a Friday evening. It was finishing. So he said to me, "Where are you located so I can bring my wife to let her fit it?" And I gave him my address. I was staying with a friend in Pembroke Pine at the time. And it turned out that he was actually living on the road next to where I was staying. He says, "Okay, great." He says, "What I'll do tomorrow, I'll bring her over and see if she let her fit the dress." So I said, "Sure, no problem." And sure enough, the next morning he called me and he came over. And when I opened the door and I saw his wife, it took my breath away for a minute, because I learned then that they were Pakistanis. And they wear the hijab over their head and everything, long sleeve, dressed down to the floor. And I said to myself, most of my clothes was made of chiffon, where you see through them. I said, I'm sure she's gonna like any of these. However, she looked through and she bought 3 dresses from me. They left and went back home. And in about an hour after he went back home, he called me and he said to me, "I have an idea." And I learned then actually that he had something to do with the management of the Miami Heat team. And he said to me that there is a lot of our Pakistani women here living in the States. And for the wives and the daughters and so to get clothes, they usually have to send back to Pakistan to buy their clothes and have them shipped to the US to them. So he asked me, would it be possible that you could do some manufacturing for me, and I'll open some boutiques across the USA selling to Pakistani ladies. And it caught me by surprise. And, in an instant, I said, sure. No, I didn't have a team of stitchers or anything at the time. I was actually using people all over the place. So when he mentioned it, I said, do me a favor, give me a letter to that effect. Take it back to Jamaica and give to the Jamaica Manufacturers Association. So
you can get some support.
Exactly. So I came back he brought me the letter the next morning. I came back to Jamaica. This was about 2008. I came back to Jamaica. I took the letter down to the Jamaica Manufacturers Association. No, sorry, it was about 2013. It was after the FinSec inquiry was finished. And I took it down to the JMA and gave it to them, and they looked at it, and I forget who was head of the JMA at the time. He said, "You'll hear from me." And until this day,
Eunice, I think it was.
Yeah.
It was Eunice.
I have not heard a word. I got my own stitchers here in Jamaica and started doing my own manufacturing. And that's how I happened to do my own designs. I carried them overseas. I actually had a meeting with Mr. Carl Samuda, who took me to Jam Pro and had members of staff from the JBDC and Jam Pro in that meeting. And they sent him that letter. And Mr. Samuda explained the situation to them, that my husband was FinSacked, arranged to lend her some funds so she can start this and get herself going. And they agreed. And sir, until this day, not a word. Mr. Samuda actually called me one day and asked me, he says, "Yola, what about your project? Have you heard from JAMPO or JBDC?" I said, "No, sir, I haven't." Nothing. And that was the end of that. So when somebody is questioned where I get the money to go overseas, it's my children that I sent to school. They graduated from university and they're in good jobs. That's where I got my financing, because the first show that I did was in Chicago Fashion Week. And about a month after the show, I got an email from Macy's you know, Macy's, the big
Oh
store.
yeah, big box store. Yes, ma'am.
And Macy's was offering to put my clothes in the store. And I showed it to my daughter. I said, where would Macy here know about me? Where I figured it was some sort of a joke. So I didn't respond to it at this time, but I didn't delete it. And I kept it there for about a month. And then I said, you know something, I'm going to call them and see if it's really them. And I did. And it was. So I started making up a bunch of designs. And the first Macy's I was in, because I know a lot of Jamaicans are in Florida, was in the Aventura Mall, the Macy's in Aventura Mall in Florida. And from there, this is my daughter, because she said, Mommy, you did everything. You sent us all the way to university. Now it is time for us to help you to do what you want to do. And she put everything that she had into finding the funds to fund me, to the point where I got my clothes from Macy's. It went to Dubai and Japan, House of Flavor. And what that went on for a few years. It was when the COVID hit that I did not want to take any vaccine. And I told them, I said, listen, I'm not going to be traveling much anymore. And I decided to close it out.
Wow. I see Mr. Mishek Willis is here with us as well. Loving One. Petal is in the house as well. And quite a few persons. I want to give these guys an opportunity to weigh in. Plus the folks in the chat. If you have questions, we are at what? 10? We're at 8:57. A few minutes before 9 o'clock. And I want to give you guys a chance. So Chuck Finley's in the building as well. I'm going to share the link. If you guys want to participate in the conversation with Miss Yula Gray Baker, please feel free to do so. She has a few more minutes with us. We don't want to keep her up too late because she has obliged us and is really bringing us some information and clarity and first-hand view as to a period that I really want us as Jamaicans never to forget, with the intention not to repeat it. So, Petal, how you doing?
I'm good. Are you hearing me?
Loud and clear.
Yes. Hi, Petal.
Hi, Mrs. Baker. I'm here listening. You know, again, every time I hear the story, it just breaks my heart, you know? But never mind the naysayers. Mrs. Baker, you have a story to tell. Your story will resonate with a lot of people. And we are just hoping that this mistake is not made again. We don't want to ever see our Jamaicans going through this, ever. So, you know, be of good courage. I know you also had your little bit there where you had the hurricane, you had to.
Yeah, I'm at my daughter's house. I'm in Florida. Yeah, we
Yes,
had to evacuate.
Oh, yeah?
yes.
Yeah, but we didn't have any damage. We came back a couple of days ago. But the only thing we're having is power outage occasionally.
I hope you're not in the Port Pierce, Jensen Beach area.
That's where I am.
Well, I'm actually in that area as well. I'm not physically in that area right now, but that's my turf as well.
Yeah. No, we evacuated. My daughter has a friend that has one of those little planes. He's a pilot.
Yes.
So he picked us up and took us down to the Keys. So
Okay.
we spent the time down there.
Good. Perfect. Yes. Mr. Willis is also in the building. I know this story rings dear to his heart. I don't know if he's able to hear us. I think his connection he's not connected. Loving One, greetings to you. How you doing? Oh, Mr. Willis, you're here, man. How you doing? Yeah, man. Greetings to you, my brother. How are you?
Good. I'm good, man. I'm good.
I must
Awesome.
also take the opportunity of thanking all the people that extended help to Mr. Willis. He and I has been going that road for years.
Yes. And he has said that many times that you've been very, very helpful to him. So, and we are still going to take it a step further. And like I said to you on the first time, Mrs. Baker, that my intention is really to uh get the ultimate assistance for him, which is to get him to at least get somewhere closer to what a decent life is.
Look like, and
Yeah,
that he can have someone staying with him.
thank
Because
you.
at his age, he should
Absolutely.
not be alone.
Should not be alone. And we are going to try to lobby and to ask, at the highest level for that level of assistance. And I asked Petal to speak to him about inviting him to to one or two very, if I may say so myself, functions, special
Yes,
functions.
yes, Chopper. Tomorrow I will talk to
Right.
him. Tomorrow I'll talk more to him.
There's two special events coming up. Two. One is slated for 2 weeks from now, and the other one is in the end of next month in November. Those two events, I think, will bring a lot more highlight to his situation, and I want to do it deliberately so that he can get the
Yes,
assistance
the
that
system
we
that
think
he
he
needs.
deserves.
I hope the one in November. Hopefully, I can be back in Jamaica and will be able to be
Well,
there.
you know something, it would be a pleasure. And I'm going to remind you, know that you've said that. I'm
Yeah,
going to remind you about it, and I hope that you'll be able to make it.
I
So I
hope.
can secure that
Yes,
little special box for you to be seated. And I'll make that my point of duty to ensure that happens. So keep me posted if
yes.
you
I will. I will.
if you
I
intend to
will.
do so.
Yeah.
I'll definitely make the necessary connections as a see fit. So Mr. Willis, Petal is going to talk to you some more about those two events, and we are hoping that you'll be able to make it because we want to bring your attention to your situation at the highest level because I think it deserves it. Yes.
Chopper, while we're here, I'd like to say a special thank you
Yes.
to all the people
Mm-hmm.
who donated. Um, there's Churchill, so the
Mm-hmm.
people who pledged and who followed through. And I know there are there are a few outstanding pledges.
Mm-hmm.
Please, there's somebody by the name of Besson. If that person is on the YouTube, please let me know if you're there. But special thank you to yourself, Chopper. Um, a person V, her first initial is V, nurse. Thank you. Um, Althea Alethea Blackwood, Allwood.
Mm-hmm.
She actually pledged, visited Mr. Willis, also brought a few items for him for his little thing there, cause the municipal officers at one point threw away his stuff, so she kind of gave him a few little stocks. Um, yes, myself, and like I said, for all the other people who pledge, and
Mm-hmm.
Maybe also followed through. So
Yeah,
for
he's
those
going to be. I think he's going to be in a good position. I've never, Mrs. Baker, Mr. Willis, and everybody. I have been at this social media platform for many, many years. I think I've been at this from 2014. I have never utilized this platform for fundraising. Never. Never
But I'm
done
going
it.
to tell you something. Mr. Willis has written a book, two books,
Yes.
and he does not give up.
I'm telling you,
The man has
brilliant.
the strength of an ox. He does
his
not give up.
drive.
He has a drive that is out of this world. That
Absolutely.
I lift my hat to him. Trust me,
Yes.
I
Yes.
lift my hat to him. He wrote his little book and sold and sold. He did
Yes.
everything. I mean, he's not out there begging money.
Precisely.
He's doing
Precisely.
something. What little he gets, he uses it to buy something to sell
Yeah.
and make
Yeah.
money on it.
Yeah. Honest bread.
Honest
Still
bread.
trying.
Still
Even
trying.
after all that, he's still trying.
He's
And that's why I
still-
believe that we owe him. I think we owe it to him
Yeah.
to
I'm so
make it right.
happy. I'm so happy that the people have, donated and
Oh
what.
yes, absolutely. And we're not going to stop there. As I said to you before, we are going to see how best we can bring attention to his situation at the highest level. And when I say at the highest level, I mean at the highest level. And hopefully, I know the people I'm talking to are willing and are able to do what is right for him. We're not asking for anybody to break the bank. We're not asking anybody to go back and build him a 6-bedroom house
Oh,
like he had it in Patrick City.
Exactly. Yeah.
But to at least according him the ability to live decent, for the time he has left on earth. None of us know how long we're going to be here for, but we owe it to him.
Yeah. And
It
Mr.
was
Willis, the thing about it is that Mr. Willis did the right thing.
Yes.
He did the
Yes.
right thing. And
Yes.
this is where it got him.
Yes. And when his son, that story you gave with his son,
Yeah.
saying to him that, why can't I do the opposite to you and it's okay? And he didn't say to his son, go ahead.
Go ahead.
He said, no,
No,
don't do it.
don't do it.
So,
It's not right.
so we owe it to you, Sir Willis. And I personally, the 1990s, I grew up in the 1990s. And I know what it was like. I lived it. So I know how devastating it was. I had an account with Central National Bank in Ocho Rios. And I know when I went there that Thursday morning and police was there and activity was going on. I know well simultaneously banks and insurance companies was just closing down and we're lining up to get our little money out there. I know, I lived the periods. I know what it is. And I know when yes.
Even his daughter, the teenage daughter at the time, she was
Yes.
so traumatized. She wouldn't come out of the house. She wouldn't even look out the window. She don't want to leave the house. I had to go there one day. I said, Mr. Willis, as a teenager, you cannot lock up in the house like that. In this place they were staying, because it wasn't a house really. And I said to him, I'm going to come and take her down to the Stella Maris Foundation, where she can go and learn something. And I did that, took her down there, and they took her to learn,
Yes.
not
Yes.
locked up in the house. She was traumatized.
It's a period that any normal human being would have been traumatized. Nobody wanted to go through what these guys went through. I see Darlan Francis joining us on TikTok, but Darlan, I need you over on this side of the platform, man, because I know you. Let me send you that link, Darlan, because I'd love for you to join us over on this side, because you were one of the persons, you and I, really championed this FinSac period for decades, for years. You and I have been talking about this, Darlan, from 2015, right? And I've just sent you the link if you so desire. Yeah, but yeah, Darlan H. Francis and I would have been on this platform from 2014, 2015.
Wow.
And we never let this thing go. We stuck to it because we believe that persons were wrong. Somebody did something wrong.
You select these people to represent you.
Yes.
Have your best interest at heart.
And they
this
didn't.
is what they do. And
Yes.
then they expect people to trust them?
No, absolutely not. Chuck Finley, I see you are in the building. Evening, sir. How you do? No, we're not hearing. Chuck, you there?
I'm here. Hearing me?
Yeah, man. Greetings to you. How you do?
Greetings. Good evening, chaps. Good evening, Miss Baker.
Good evening, sir.
Good to have you back. Mr. Willis is here also.
Yes, Mr. Willis is here.
Mr. Willis, I have been trying to call your phone, sir.
Yes.
Tell Mr. Willis I am trying to reach out to him.
Well,
Okay.
here.
Right.
I'm here, man.
So, if you say a strange number calling you tomorrow again, it is I.
Okay, sir. Good.
Good.
Can
right,
you hear me
sir.
though?
Yeah, man,
Yes,
we
man,
hearing
you
you
can
now.
hear.
Okay, good.
We hearing you, sir.
Right.
And
Yeah, man.
again,
Appreciating, man. Give me a call
yeah,
anytime,
man.
anytime, man.
Your
Yeah.
fan is a little, is distorting your voice here, Sir Willis. So if you can move your fan a little
But
bit.
Miss Baker,
Yes,
I
sir.
want to ask you something. I
Uh-huh.
want to ask you something in the public since we are here now.
Okay.
Have you done any form of acting in your life?
No.
Because we are being accused that you are employing actors to play victims. That's
Again?
one of the sentiments that is being exposed, that you're an actress.
That I'm an actress
Yes.
and I'm acting.
And this, yes, that you're acting. That's one of the sentiments that is out there. Right? That is one of the sentiments. And like I said, the FinSac story is one I speak on every day. Because just like Chaps, I live through it. I saw the institution crumbled around us. I saw the future that I should have been creating for my children taken away by people that was elected to serve, as you said,
Yeah.
to serve and protect us. Right? And when the time comes, they not only abandon Jamaicans, but they took part in the
In
spoils.
the spoils, exactly. So why and in what respect am I acting? Where would I get all the information that I have?
That's the question I ask also. But there are people out here who don't want to face the truth, Miss Baker. And like Chaps, we will not take the truth out them face, because they need to be reminded of what they have done.
Well, I said this many years ago, Chuck, and Darlan is here as well as a testimony. I said this many years ago, that I will spend every waking moment to ensure that Jamaicans are reminded of the period in which we lost a significant part of our GDP. Jamaica, Singapore today, Mrs. Baker, we should have been ahead of Singapore.
I know
The
that.
model that Lee Kuan Yew used is a model that was created by Jamaica.
Just last week, I was telling somebody that.
Yes.
Just
And
last
they used it and became a first world country, while we took the role of an ideological journey in experimenting with what was dubbed as democratic socialism, right? Experimenting with people's lives and livelihood that cost us 25, 30, 40% of our GDP and plunge people like yourself and others into losing what you had. Loving one, I see you there. How you do?
If they all think that I'm acting, I have the documentations as proof.
You don't have to prove to anybody, though. One thing I will tell you, truth pressed to earth will always rise.
Always rise.
Always rise. Loving one, greetings to you. How you do? You're a little bit low. You're coming across a bit low.
Hello?
Yeah, go again. You're coming across a bit low. Go again.
Hello?
All right, I think you might have to just exit and re-enter the box again. And let's see if we can get you back in. Darlan H. Francis, I see you hopping a while ago and hop out. I'd love to get your input on this. As I said to you before, Darlan is one of those persons who have been at this for quite some time. And, I have to say, hats off to yourself and to Mr. Willis. I'm hoping that next week, I had a very good conversation today with Mr. Dyer. And I'm hoping that next week we'll have him on as well.
I hope
Because his story is a powerful one. I'm still trying to get in contact with Mr. Richard Crawford from Central National.
Yeah.
I think he resides in Atlanta area there. And I want to touch base with him as soon as possible so we can get him on. Because I think it's important. There are some people...
Richard or Don?
Don Crawford. I don't know why I said
Crawford.
Richard.
Okay,
Dickie
because,
Crawford.
I used to talk to Don quite a lot, and then I just
Yes.
lost contact with him. So I'm glad you were able to get him.
Yeah, well, I haven't spoken to him yet, but I've reached out to someone who is
Okay.
going to make that contact, and hopefully we'll get him on here so we can have that discussion. Because these period, we cannot and should not allow it to go without documenting what the impact it had on ordinary Jamaicans. Because a lot of people believe that it was purely bankers who lost businesses and all that. The average guy, Mr. Mishak Willis was an average guy. He wasn't a multi-billionaire guy.
Average
He was just
little
right.
man. We call it little man.
Yes.
Just a buying thing and a
Just
sell
a buy and
it.
sell. And his title was utilized to enrich somebody else.
And the
he
thing
lost
about it is that the little bit that he borrowed, he didn't even draw down all of it.
Yes. And he
Yeah.
ended up losing. I don't see it. And nobody see that this is something that we must investigate. We must get closure to it. We must get close. Somebody have to answer to it. And then you have people who come on to tell you stories and to give this big speech as if they are some paragon of virtue and pretend to be this, what they dub as what? What they call it?
Financial engineer?
Let me tell you what they call it. Let me tell you what they call it. Hold
Financial
on.
engineer?
Where
Here
I've
it
been
is.
like one of the leading corporate lawyers in Jamaica and very involved in financial engineering and so sector. Where I had been like one of the leading corporate. I came into the party through Dr. Omar Davis because I knew him in the financial sector, where I had been like one of the leading corporate lawyers in Jamaica and very involved in financial engineering. And so when he was Minister of Finance, a lot of the things that required industry input, I was one of the representatives of the industry that he would deal with. I got to know him through that. And that's how I got into the PNP really, through my relation with him.
Whilst most people know Mark because of his being a top lawyer and a key man in the financial sector, comrades, this man is all round. He's multifaceted. On November 7th, I want you, comrades, this man is all round. Most people know Mark because of his being a top lawyer and a key man in the financial sector. Comrades, this man is all round.
Yeah. That's who we're dealing with. And lest people forget, lest you forget, that is who we're dealing with. That is the man who says he is the engineer of the period.
Yeah.
I would love to know though, if it is. Go ahead, Miss B.
Say he engineered quite a bit.
Quite a bit, because the question is though, I will not draw any conclusion here, but I would ask a very simple question. A very simple question. Let's say we were able to scrutinize Mark Golding's asset as deep as we would have scrutinized the assets of Andrew Holness. And let's say in doing so, we came across one or two pieces of assets that were purchased through FinSac. How would you feel about it?
You're asking me?
Well,
Well, for one, I wouldn't be surprised.
you would be surprised.
First, I would not be surprised because I know there are many.
Yes. Yeah. Mr. Willis, how would you feel about that? Mr. Willis is still here with us. Well, Darlan Francis is joining us. Let me get my good friend, my good friend Darlan into the picture here. Sir Francis, how are you doing?
I'm good.
I greet you well, man. I'm happy to have you.
How are you doing? Madam, how are you?
I'm good, thank you, sir.
Yes. Yes, I had a warm time getting on your chopper.
Well, you're here, sir. I'm happy to have you on. You and I have been championing this FinSac story a long time ago. Petal has taken it on like nobody's business. She's on it like they would say white and right. She's not leaving it. I think she's
Mhm.
as curious about FinSac as anybody. Michael Brown Sr. is here as well. He is also another one of those FinSac champions. There's quite a few people here who I can identify as persons who have shared this platform with me since 2015 and who have always been asking for FinSac reports, even before the JLP took office. And we know that we are excited. We are excited now that the decision has been taken for the report to be not the report but the transcript to be uploaded. How do you feel about that, Darlan?
Yeah, I think the report should have been. We should have had it a long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
It was a very serious setback for the country. It's a blunder of mass proportion, and it should not be repeated. And the way to understand it fully is to get the report and to review it thoroughly. And if there are recommendations in it, those recommendations are carried out. I can't understand why there's a delay, but
Well,
there should be no delay in that report. It was a major setback for the country, and we should not go back down that road.
but remember, Darlan, that the report, there's no longer a wait for a report because this government would have taken a decision to release the transcript as opposed to the report. Remember that Dr. Nigel Clark just recently in Parliament would have stated that they are moving now to upload the transcript of the FinSac inquiry and the FinSac investigation. They are uploading that to a special website where every Jamaican, both local and overseas, the universities, the media, the judiciary, everybody will have access to it and can pull it apart and understand what took place then. So we're not waiting for a report anymore. We're getting
Mhm.
something which I view is better than a report. We're now getting the transcript.
Yeah, I, I remember in the last budget presentation, the Minister Clark said that he wanted people to write do some scholarly writing
About
on
it.
the whole incident.
Right.
I have a whole chapter in my book dedicated to it. I don't know if my chapter would have measured up, would meet that
Because you have a book out there on the financial
qualification.
crisis of the 1990s, correct?
Well, the crisis of 2007, but I made reference to the Jamaica situation.
Right.
I made reference to it. Yeah, man, and we need to understand it. Uh, it was a crisis caused by high interest rate
Exactly.
and a government that did not understand the economy, and it was very short on economic understanding and very long on political victimization, because it was the collapse of the world sector. The first domino to fall was Century, and Century was forced into bankruptcy for political reasons.
Yeah.
You think
Yeah,
so?
of
Yes.
course,
Yeah.
of course.
How do you come to
But
that conclusion, Darlan?
it was straight up political reason why. Because Crawford, everybody know Crawford was a supporter of the Labour Party, was a good friend of Eddie Siaga, right? And Century, the sin that Century committed was that Mr. Crawford was doing business. He was transacting certain business, and he needed a certain sum of money.
Mhm.
And he went into the market to buy dollars, I think $2 beyond what the government wanted it to be at, right? If my memory serves me right, I think he was buying dollars at 28 to 1. And I think the government had set up a target of of holding the dollar at 26 to 1, right?
But they were in the market doing the very same thing that Dan Crawford was doing.
Of course.
Yeah.
But you
There was no
using money,
difference.
having money in the trunk of cars and
But
buying on the black market,
why
right?
did Dan Crawford had to go that route, Darlan? Wasn't it because the Bank of Jamaica did not have sufficient net international reserve to keep the financial market going? As such, people like Dan Crawford and other institutions had to go directly to the tourists to get the money.
Yes.
Because the
They,
bank
they,
wasn't able to supply them with the foreign exchange that they need.
they
Bad
had to they,
economic policy.
they had to hustle. What happened? The big crisis, the thing that really caused the thing, was when Michael Manley decided to
Liberalize
liberalize the foreign exchange market. He
without
was
having
no reserve. He had
at
no
all.
reserve. I think at the time the country reserve was minus 600 million,
That couldn't hold the dollar together.
right? Minus the country's reserve was negative. I think it was 600 and something million US dollar negative reserve at the time when he
Yes.
liberalized the thing. I remember that budget. I remember that budget presentation as it was like yesterday. I think it was 93 or 92. I think it was the budget of 92. And Michael was on his bed, a sick bed in university. And I remember Eddie was making his presentation.
Mhm.
And he said that there are people there lobbying you, urging you to liberalize the dollar. And Eddie
Don't do
looked
it.
straight in the camera. And with the plea, him said, don't do it.
Mhm.
Don't do it. Right? But Michael wanted to show that he was more liberal than Eddie. He was
Yes.
more of a capitalist because it was the second coming now.
But when did he become that? Darlan, stick a pin right there. Because I want to play something I want to play something here for you. So you can understand that your opinion and the opinion that we all share here, including Mr. Willis and everybody, is not an opinion that is unique to us because other persons who suffered FinSac agree. Listen to this.
The 1990s began the process of dismantling the Central National Bank. It was done immediately after the Don Crawford run entity had bought a significant sum of US dollars at a few dollars more than the price that the official exchange rate indicated. The bank did nothing which other banks were not doing in a time when an inept PNP government was struggling with managing a market economy which it knew little or nothing about. What the sale of those dollars did was reveal that the very same finance ministry was covertly, that means underground, dispatching agents with huge sacks of cash in the trunks of their cars to buy US dollars at prices above the official exchange rate. The money was stolen eventually. With blood rushing to its head when this action was revealed, an embarrassed PNP government set about withdrawing public funds from the Central National Bank, making it publicly known. And in the process, it started or triggered a run on the bank, which was seemingly designed to end its life. That, however, is a sad history for the most progressive bank existing in Jamaica at that time.
I don't know how to.
I from, if memory serves me right, at the time, my understanding also was that there were some political entities that had interest in the bank and wanted to become.
That's another story too.
Well, I remember there was a move afoot. I I remember, I think it was Mr. Carl Blight and the businesses he operated who they had approached to try to inject some capital in Century,
Right,
right?
because
Yeah.
they called Don to a meeting at, I think it was Jamaica House one Saturday evening, and when he declined to take their offer, on his way home, him out at by Trafalgar Road, him sit where them a sell the Gleaner, and on the headlines of the Sunday Gleaner was Don Crawford Bank. Half of it was gone to some minister, some government entity.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they were pissed at him basically, you
I
know.
think the intent was to destroy the bank because
To destroy.
you cannot negotiate a rescue operation in public. You
Yes.
talk, you're talking
When
about
you-
a financial institution,
But,
something that needs the utmost of confidence
but if
and
you withdraw the country's the government accounts from Century, and not only withdraw it, but you publicize it,
yes,
that's
it it
that's
it,
that's,
it
that's
it was designed to destroy the bank.
Destroying.
It was a hatchet job. People should understand, that the that financial crisis, it took me. I saw Mr. Willis and um Madam here. Can you
Baker, yes,
remind me of the name?
Baker.
Yola.
Huh?
Mrs. Baker, Yula Gray Baker.
Yes,
Miss
Miss
Yula
Baker.
Gray Baker, yes.
Yeah, yeah. We read about your story, but we shouldn't forget that a former governor of the Bank of Jamaica. People need to understand this is a man who angle the money for the country, the whole country. Former governor, Mr.
Jacques Boussier?
Brown,
Eh,
Dr.
okay.
Dr. Brown.
Dr. Brown.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Brown. He when he left the bank, he went into money management business. He went into money management business. And because of the hostile economic environment and the difficulty with the financial sector, his business failed.
Mhm.
A former governor of the Bank of Jamaica, his
Wow.
business failed. I don't even want to repeat it here, but the ending wasn't pretty.
Mhm.
He took matters in his own hand. You
Mhm.
understand? So we and Trapper, we're proud of you, boy, to keep this because you see, we're not to have these things as 9-day wonders.
Yeah, yeah.
We're not to have it as 9-day wonder.
One of
We
the
need to
reasons,
keep.
Darlan, and because we have had this discussion extensively, I believe that history, you are a student of history. I
Yes,
believe that there are certain periods in this country that we must never repeat.
yes,
The period of 1972 to
even
1980 must never be repeated.
even with
right.
And
Mr. Willis, do you know that I took Mr. Willis down to a party political member office to ask him, can you help Mr. Willis? If you don't help nobody else, help Mr.
right.
Willis. And his response was, he can't help him because if him help him, other people going to want help.
Bullshit of the highest order, excuse the language. Bull
Exactly.
crap,
Yeah.
unacceptable.
And one of the galling response, I know of other people who, after having forced into difficulty, because these guys are not that they didn't know to do business. It's not that they were ripping off their own company. It was the hostile environment created by a sustained period of high interest rate that caused most, if not all, of the businesses to fail at the time. And you had guys who went to the government and to FinSAC and say, I'll give you 50 cents on the dollar for my debt. And they refuse.
They sold it for
They
20
refuse.
cents
50 cents on the dollar,
and they prefer
right?
to sell
And
it
then
to
they
a
went
foreigner
and
for
sell
20
it to
cents.
a foreigner. For how much?
20
Not
cents.
sell it,
20
then
cents
give
on
it
the
to him.
dollar. Talking
Then give
about
it to him.
talking about what was the term?
I don't remember the term they use. But
It will come to me. It will come to me.
Mop up liquidity. Mop up
No,
Mop up
liquidity.
liquidity.
no.
map of liquidity was a policy of interest rate.
They
The mapping
I
up
soon
of
tell you.
liquidity
I
was
soon tell you what the term they were
interest rate.
using. Why they could not sell it to the people who had the business and
I
was
can't,
offering
but
50
Garland,
cents
that's
on the
the
dollar.
explanation.
But
That is the
Mr.
explanation Mrs. Grant myself been talking about all evening.
Because a
Somebody was
Jamaican
explaining
entity offered, sent them a check.
as a
I
deposit.
can't repeat how much $1 million and say, we'll buy the debt from the people. I will buy it, give it to us and let us handle them. And they refused. And they give it away to Jamaica Redevelopment. Remember when it was Dennis Jocelyn first, they sell it too. Dennis Jocelyn formed a company called Beale Bank. That was to give the people the impression that he was a bank. He wasn't a bank, he was a debt collector. Then he changed it from Beale Bank to Jamaica Redevelopment Foundation. Those two companies were formed in Texas as well as in Jamaica. And they, as a debt collector in the United States, it is illegal for a debt collector to charge interest on any loan or collect interest. Once it has been determined as a bad debt, they are not allowed to charge interest or penalty for it. Yet for every property of Jamaicans that them sell, them interest is on it. Because Omar Davis changed the Money Lending Act to accommodate them as if they were a bank.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. The term I was looking for was moral hazard. Right? They did not want to create moral hazard. Because there's a thing, you have a situation like if you gonna lend a man $1 million and then him run his business into bankruptcy and then come and offer to pay 50 cents on the dollar, it could set a bad example, for other
Yes.
people to follow.
Yeah,
So
you could withdraw your money, you could run the thing out, milk the money from your business, run it bankrupt, and then buy it back.
Right.
I can understand that.
And other people might want to copy that, right?
To do the same
So
thing, yes.
it was this moral hazard that they were so afraid of. The moral hazard. So if you come and you because of the government incompetence, not your incompetence, the government incompetence, run the business into the ground. You are now saying that a businessman could not come and buy his debt for 50 cents on the dollar because it would create moral hazard, right? But they would rather sell it to Jocelyn for 20 cents on the dollar, right? So it was a comedy of errors. And I hear some young people talking about like they want to know what life was like under the PNP. Some of them never experienced a PNP government, right? Because JLP started running things from 2007, a brief interruption, they came back. So most of the time it was JLP from 2007. It's almost 20 years. So you have some guys, maybe a 26-year-old, even up to a 30-year-old person might not have experienced what a PNP government is like. Young people, let me tell you now, the PNP is utter disaster for this country. In 1972, they got a booming economy, a prosperous economy. In 2 years in the 60s, Jamaica was ahead of Singapore. 2 years straight, I think 64 and 65. Jamaica's GDP was ahead of Singapore. And Singapore, click when you came here to see what we were doing and went back and built Singapore
and
into
used our policies. Yeah.
the same ideas and built Singapore into the powerhouse it has become.
I
Right?
remember that.
And that was the country that we were. And Michael took that over And during the 70s, we very nearly starved.
Yeah, I
We
told
very
him.
nearly starved.
Yeah,
And in
because
the
the
90s,
supermarket shelves were
in the
empty.
90s, PGA and Davis ran the country to a wreck, right? They that that the FinSac meltdown cost the country $3 billion US.
Mm.
$3 billion US. And that was when a billion was a billion.
Yeah.
That was real money. And young people, you need to understand, for that $3 billion US, we did not get a bridge. We did
Not a
not
road.
get no road. No road
Not
was
a blade
paved,
of
no
grass.
bridge,
No.
no school. There was no maintaining of Cornwall Regional Hospital. That is why it was run to a wreck. It was not maintained. You know, you hear people say stitching time save 9.
Mm-hmm.
Under the PNP, there was not a single stitch put into Cornwall Regional Hospital. And that is why now to rehabilitate it, it is costing so much money. Because we basically have to rebuild a hospital down there. So young people, for $3 billion US, no Jamaica people did not get a bridge. Not a bridge. The $3 billion was used to pay for the pensioners, the pension plan. They saved the pension plan of pensioners. They saved the cash value of life insurance. And they paid a few, maybe $1 million on the savings in banks. Right? That is what that $3 billion was used to do. Nothing else.
Paid 50 on saving account. That's what you got back. The
Yeah.
cap on it.
They were just able to use that money to they were able to use the money to cover the cash value of life insurance, cover the pension plans, and to pay. As a matter of fact, it was cents on the dollar for some savers. Some savers did not get back all the money they had in the bank because we did not have deposit insurance at the time. But I think I don't remember what they had capped it at. But if you had over a certain amount in the bank, you were not going to get back everything. Right? So people,
You have insurance now?
they're the deposit insurance now.
I think
But
it's the same one at $750,000.
I don't remember what the cap is on it now. But it might
$750,000.
be a little more than that. I think it's about I'm not sure.
I'm telling you what it is.
Yeah, you're okay, fine. But we did not have it then. And some people with deposits in the bank did lose some of it.
Michael is saying that it went up to $1.2 million now.
Yeah, you're right. That's what I can recall. Yeah, I know there was some adjustments recently. Yeah, so people understand it. It was $3 billion when billion was money. Mm-hmm. And we did not get a bridge for it. That is why all our infrastructure was so run down. It was the main reason why our debt to GDP ratio moved to 147 to 1.
Mm-hmm.
Our debt to GDP was at one time 147%. And that the FinSac bailout, I think the FinSac bailout alone moved it by about 50% out of that 147.
But when you listen to Mrs. Baker Darlan, and she spoke about some of the movement in interest rate at the time, there's absolutely no way any business at all in Jamaica, I don't care how powerful you are, could sustain that sort of movement.
No business. Even people dealing in drugs couldn't survive.
I tell you, that's exactly when my husband got a letter from Jamaica Redevelopment Foundation to pay something like $8,000 a month. I told him, I said, listen, if we had that $8,000 to pay them, I would rather use it to sue them.
Start over somewhere.
Yeah. Exactly.
You gotta start over somewhere.
It was ridiculous. Mr. Willis, and Darlan, there's a part of it I don't know if you, because when we were discussing FinSac over the years, we did not discuss the activities that was happening within the banking institutions, where individuals' assets, collaterals were being used by the bank to
yeah,
take out loan
for
on
themselves,
their behalf. Well, not
managers
on their
and other
behalf,
bank,
for them
and
own, for
bank
themselves.
employees.
Yeah.
That's what was happening, you know. When you go to the bank with your title, once you walk through the door and gone, them use your title to borrow money for themselves.
Did you
Yeah,
know that,
but
Darren?
yeah, but recently I saw the Supreme Court gave a judgment. There a man, he had a loan balance of 3 million US. And I think the Chief Justice himself opined that it was evident to him, the judge, that I don't know if he was the petitioner in the case or what, but the guy who they said that took out the loan, the judge is saying that it was evident to him that the man did not know nothing about two of the million of US dollars.
No. And that is the reason why the people go to the title office, they can't get back the title. Because they
Yes.
would have realized that other people named upon the title. So
Yes.
that's what Omar Davis knew that. That's when he made testifying at the inquiry that the banks are dealing in activities that would turn my hair white. Okay?
Ay.
Yeah, man, it was pathetic. And these guys are the ones clamoring to come back to come manage the affairs of this country. These are the guys who are frowning and behaving as if the way Dr. Nigel Clark had managed the affairs of the country is no big thing. I know nothing that. Right? Well, let me tell, especially the young people, 30 years old and under, you are to listen to the older birds, God, at least they know storm. And I tell you, the PNP was worse than Beryl, worse than Charlie.
To put together.
Yes, all of them. All of our hurricane and storms combined.
Couldn't cost us what they cost us.
They were more of a destructive force than anything. Right? It was because of that, the whole social fabric of the country fell apart, That is why during the 90s, the only growth industry was extortion, scamming, and remittance.
Yes.
You understand? I think sometimes they come and brag about, poverty was what it was under them. What policy did they implement to reduce poverty? It was people in foreign who did not want their loved ones to starve.
And send home the money.
Who send money down? Why the people could live a certain life? It wasn't government policy. Right? They talk about the poverty was this. It was because of extortion, outright robbery, lottery scamming. These are the things that emerge. And those were the growth industry and the PNP. So if the young people them think that is a better life, think again. Think again. In life, in in a Maslow's hierarchy of needs, You see,
Yes.
once you can breathe the air, you get water and you get food, then you want the next thing. And once you get the next thing, you want the other thing till you reach the 5 level. So some people, if they're always thinking that, we are here now, we can go further. Well, that is the desire of man. But it doesn't always work like that.
But Alan, let me ask Mrs. Baker this question though. I mean, for lack of one thing to sound political, but I have no choice. When persons like Mark Golding would say to us Jamaicans that the 1990s was the best period.
Has he really said that?
I'll find the tape for you.
I don't believe
this wasn't an AI generated speech, I will find that tape and send it to you. And if anybody on the platform know that can find it.
How old is Mark Golden?
Is he 50? Is he 50 how much, darling? I need to find it.
I think it's about 60.
But did he not say, am I correct, chat? Folks, it's 58. Michael Brown Senior said it's 58. Michael Brown, you're in the chat. And others, Willow, Pauline and Marlene and everybody. Petal, Winner. Am I incorrect in saying that Mark Golden did make such a statement? I said the 1990s was the best period of the PNP? Because I don't want to misquote the gentleman, you know. And I pride myself on being factual. And I'm quite certain that he said it. The 1990s was the best period of the PNP.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you know what? The coin has two sides. He may be right. It was
may be right
for the PNP.
There you go. The context matters.
And the genetically connected, like the comrade who got Class FM.
Context matters.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, a lot of people who got assets for cents on the dollar.
Yeah.
You know. And we're not to farm full of ourselves. You know, it's 2 times we have been on the pace and the path to prosperity.
And derailed it. Yes.
And 2 times we were derailed, right?
Yeah.
We were doing well up to 72. And Michael come and say better must come.
Boy.
And before he left office, we couldn't get food. People got shot over rice.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And you know, they always spin things and come and talk about CIA and thing. And they don't tell people, they don't tell people drop of that. They had set up a thing called a State Trading Corporation.
Yes.
That was headed by a guy named Dexter Rose and
Dexter Rose, man. Yes.
Yeah. And at the time when we could all find foreign exchange, these guys got the money to buy stuff. And they misappropriated the money. The money disappeared. The little money that was supposed to use to buy.
Yeah. Well, I tell you what, that's why I like these folks in the chat, you know, Miss Baker, because they are on the ball.
Yeah.
They are on the ball, and you will not leave your night.
Even as a matter of fact, even at the inquiry, when Carl Bly testified, you know.
Yes.
He testified.
Yes.
And he
spoke about insider trading, eh?
He spoke about what PNP was doing.
Yes. Well, I'll tell you what. I know the people in my chat, you know, they are on the ball, and you're not going to leave here tonight without hearing from the man himself that what he said. Because I know I wasn't asleep. So let's hear what the goodly gentleman said in his own words. Because we don't want to misquote anybody here. We pride ourselves on facts. Here you go.
So stop telling about the People's National Party go around the country, right? The people of Jamaica know that the People's National Party is a party that delivers a strong economy for the people.
No, man. He said we deliver a strong economy for the people. He needs to speak, and there was one way he spoke specifically to the 1990s. That's the one I want to get winner. I know this one doesn't speak specific to the 1990s, but he did say he delivered a good economy. And I'd love to ask Mr. Golden, what period is he talking about? Because it cannot be the 1970s.
That's why I asked her how old he is.
Exactly.
He would not have been around unless you think he was not living in Jamaica at the time. Probably that's it.
Well, it's possible because he's maintained his British citizenship up until recently. So
yeah, but if he's going to run to to want to run the country, he must know the facts about the country.
That is true. Because if he's saying that they deliver a robust and a good economy for the country, I would love for him to explain to me what period is he talking about. It could not be between 1972 and 1980. And it certainly could not be between 1989 and 2007. It couldn't be.
Miss Baker, let me tell you this. Mark Golding was right here in Jamaica reaping the spoils for himself. I say two of the strongest company coming out of the 90s was DB&G
Darren Bunting Golden.
and Golden and JMB. What does those two companies have in common? Very strong ties to the then government. He was right here. He was nowhere. When he says good time, good period, he meant for himself.
Yeah, that's why I asked for whom.
Oh,
yes.
Yeah.
Very good question.
Yeah.
Very good question.
Crazy. And let me tell you, sir, you know, I made a decision after FinSac, and a lot of people didn't like what I did or when I said I did it. But banking is something I don't do in Jamaica.
But who would be scared? I mean, who would not be?
When I need
I would be
money,
scared. I'm scared now.
I don't.
You know?
And do you know that a spin-off from that era is why banks are so unfriendly these days?
Yes.
This is why our economic growth has not attained level of 5 and 6% interest like we have had other JLP governments of the past.
Stymied growth, yeah.
It's because the banks are not doing what banks are supposed to do. And it all stemmed from that period, the 90s.
yes,
right?
yes, Dolan. The banks are now more interested in making money from fees rather than to lend people money.
Yes.
Yes.
It's because that's a safer bet for them.
Well, that's the reason I don't do banking here. Because I can transfer money from the US to myself in Jamaica for $2.99 US. Okay?
$2.99.
$2.99. Yeah.
Yes.
That's the fee. I don't
Yeah,
do banking in Jamaica.
The whole banking culture was totally upended by the mismanagement of the PNP. Right? The whole banking culture, totally different. There was a time when banks used to go around and ask businessmen to come and take loan, and they were there. They used to visit with businessmen, make sure everything is on track, and the economy could grow. Almost every businessman I come across these days, him cannot get money to capitalize his business. He cannot get money to grow his business because the banks just take the money and all they want to do is to charge fees or invest in a few mortgage and car loan. That's all they want to do.
Yeah. Remember, there was a period also, Darlan, where it was encouraged by banks for you not to indulge in any form of business in terms of development, but instead you should just dump your money on government paper, go on the beach in Ocho Rios. There were literally advertisement on radio or on TV asking you, hey, don't bother with the business. Don't get into farming. Don't get into the fashion industry. Don't get into manufacturing. Just bring your money here, invest it in government papers, and go cock up on the beach. Those were literal advertisement that was being run on TV station and radio station in Jamaica. But if you think I'm lying about some of the things, here is another stalwart of the People's National Party during the period.
Deepest regret is that having gone in 1989, where the conditions were terrible, is that having gone in 1989, where the conditions were terrible, and having left in 2007, I cannot proudly say that the conditions have changed so significantly that I would be content to applaud myself or the team for their achievements. My
Confession is good for the
is
soul.
that having gone in 1989, where the conditions were terrible, and having left in 2007, I cannot proudly say that the conditions have changed so significantly that I would be content to applaud myself or the team for their achievements.
You hear it from the horse's mouth.
Well, I don't know who else to say it.
And he was very diplomatic with it too. He didn't talk it like how he should talk it. but look, man, the PNP left people poorer. Yeah, the PNP left people poorer. During the 70s, they had 25% negative growth.
Wow.
From 72 to 80. 25% negative growth. The 1 year of growth was Siaga was JLP momentum growth. Momentum growth from the 60s, early 70s. And after that, it was 8 years of negative growth.
Negative 3%.
Combined accumulated negative growth of 25%.
Yes.
25%, Chopper.
The GDP, yes, we lost that in GDP.
Yeah, I think as you make reference, you look like you're referring to 1 year, the last year maybe. Because
Yes,
I
the
think
last
they had
year.
about a negative growth of about 7% in the last year they were there. But the combined negative growth of the 70s
yes
was 25%. So they took us back a quarter of where we were.
Yes.
They took us backward by quarter of where we had
and they did the same
advanced
thing
to.
again in the 90s.
Of course. I just don't have those numbers that time, but I would imagine that at the very best, their combined growth over that period of time, from 89 to 72. I don't think they had combined growth of more than 4%. Because we had years of zero growth. Sometimes it go by 1.5, sometimes it go by 0.5. And their combined cumulative growth over that period of time was, I don't think, more than 4 or 5%. Cumulative growth from 89 to 207.
Wow.
I stand corrected, but I wouldn't be too far off. Can't be off by more than 1%, a 1% point, right? And the Jamaica people need to understand, this government has been able to present budget for 7 years without increasing any tax. And at the same time, they were able to increase the pay of public sector workers, civil servants. And they were able to do capital investment without having to borrow.
Well, you know, one of the things that bothered me about and both parties, as far as I'm concerned, because when the whole FinSec issue started under the PNP administration, and when the FinSec report, when the inquiry was going on and the inquiry was finished, and it was now just the writing of the report. And when time kept moving on, I called, I remember one day I called the Office of the Minister of Finance, and I tell them I'm inquiring about the report, what has happened to the report. And the lady that I spoke to, she said to me, her words were, "Mrs. Baker, I cannot tell you." So I said to her, "Is it that you don't know and you cannot tell me, or you know and you cannot tell me? Which is it?" And I got no response.
Well,
that told me everything.
I think the report is coming out now, though. and the truth of the matter, The truth of the matter is that I believe it is well known what was the cause of this, of that debacle. It is well known. It was poor political administration. It was the main problem was caused by a set of politicians who did not know what they were doing. They did not know what they were doing. They made
Mhm.
they made they made serious blunder.
I agree with you.
Yeah. And
I
no
agree with
business
you.
could have survived. I remember during the inquiry. I remember when they had Jim Parks before the inquiry.
Mm-hmm.
Jim Parks was the last president of Mutual Life before the demise of the 100 and how much year old company, 100 and
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. That at Talwat, and that giant fell under PNP. And Jim Parks was there, and they were asking him, why? Because the insurance company was involved in non-core business, non-core business. And this was a concept that, these people come up with, like, the banks were involved in non-core banking business
Mhm.
and the life insurance companies were involved in non-core business. The fact of the matter is that life insurance, the core business of life insurance is to invest in the country. Life insurance company build some of the most outstanding communities and sh- factory space and shopping centers around the island. Life
And
insurance
tell you
did that.
something, mutual life building is my husband's did that.
Project.
Yeah, it's his project.
Oh, oh,
Yeah,
is that right? Is
yeah.
that right? That's
Mhm.
very good. Yeah, so that is the core business. But the truth of the matter is that look at Paul Chen Young. Paul Chen Young set out to build Crown Eagle Hotel.
Mhm.
Oh no, not hotel. He set out to build apartment, a high-end apartment at the
Yeah,
time,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
And because of the economic climate,
Mhm.
there was nobody would wanting to take up that kind of apartment. And those were high going for 11 and 12 million at the time. Those
Yeah.
were like a steal now, eh? And then he switched to try to do it into hotel, right? And that building cost him
That's the
about
one that
seven.
that's the one that the embassy has now, the US
Got,
embassy.
Yes,
yeah, I
yes,
got for
yes.
350 million. A
Yeah.
building that cost about 700 million, right? And I want to speak a little to this, and the Jamaica people need to understand this. That is what happened when PNP is in power. If you venture, you're going to get hurt. And look at a man like Paul Chen Young. I mean, he wrote a piece. He wrote a piece. I mean, reference to it in my book called "With All Good Intentions." That was the title of the thing. With all good intentions, because these people like Paul Chen Young, people like Jim Parks and all them, man, these people come and wanted to help the country, want to invest in the
Just
country,
in
want
the
the country
country.
to grow, right? But what the Jamaica people need to understand, and what these young guys, 30 years and under, or even 35 and under, need to know, is that based on the track record of the People's National Party, business people who venture get burned. And what is going to happen is that if they come back to power, everybody going to fool them and catch and watch. And because of that, business will start to flounder. Because the economy, the economy is funny. The economy is what people believe it will be. If you believe the economy will get bad, it get bad. If you believe the economy will get good, it get good. It is what is called confidence. And
Mhm.
and people will have no confidence in the PNP, and they will catch and watch, and the economy will get bad under them. And then when the economy get bad, in order to maintain the recurrent expenditure of government, like paying teachers, police, nurses, maintaining roads. In order to do those recurrent expenditure, they have to tax. Because everybody just catch and watch, not doing no business. There's no economic activity. There's no GCT generation and other taxes. So therefore, government is not able to maintain the thing that they're coming to, like paying teachers, paying nurses, paying police. And that is why under the PNP for the best year, what did the leader of the opposition describe the 90s as? During that period, however, they had to increase tax by $54 billion. They have to impose $54 billion worth of tax on the people.
Yeah, that's
Right?
why I said it was best for whom.
Yes, yes.
Yes.
54 billion, and the other one billion was billion too. Right? Compare that to Nigel now not imposing no tax for 7 years. I know they want to spin it in that, oh, yes, he's getting tax. Of course, he's getting tax. Because under the JLP government and under his leadership, he inspires confidence in people. And people feel that they can venture and that the financial affairs of the country will stay strong. And businessmen don't have to fret and say, well, boy, if me go venture, I'm going to get burned like Paul Chen Young. Or I'm going to lose my money like Mr. What's his name? Right? People don't have to say that because they have the confidence that JLP know to run the country. And the finance minister, Dr. Nigel Clark, is a financial, what we call quant. He's a financial engineer.
Real engineer.
Yeah, man. He's a financial engineer, man. He's a quantity guy, man. Where we have a thing here called quant, financial quant. These are guys who create financial instruments, right?
Yes.
And the recent one that generated almost $500 million of revenue to the government is an
180.
example. Yeah, the example of that. So he knows to do things, right? But the point though is that business people will now have confidence to expand their business,
Yes.
to start a new venture. New people will come into the thing, and there is where you get economic activity. I can bet anybody and win if PNP win today. By tomorrow, every expansion plan put on hold. Everybody, every businessman is gonna put their plan on hold.
Watch
Absolutely.
and wait. Watch and wait and watch.
Watch and wait. Watch and watch.
Yeah, they're gonna do
Watch
it.
and watch.
And as I said before, the economy is what people believe it will be. If you believe it's going to get bad, it get bad. And if you believe it's going to get good, it get good. Because the people come and, man will have an idea. He want to start something. He's going to set up a little Airbnb down there, so. He's going to build some unit to rent. He's going to go do it because he feel that the economy will, you will get rentals for his unit. But on the PNP, they're going to say, boy, I'm not sure about this, brother. Let me wait and see. Let me wait and see. And while they wait and see, the economy will contract. And the contract, then we're going to wait and see a little more.
But Mrs. Baker, you familiar with this guy? Hold on there, darling. You're familiar with this guy because you would have been a part of the
Rose.
Betty Rose. Listen to this.
Just sold one of my property 3 weeks ago. I didn't inform me anything. I just pass and see Severe. I'm on already Severe in the property. A friend called me. I talked to Severe. I got his number. And the person who buy the property, them send the Severe to Severe place. And when I check it out, my lawyer call him. And then that's time I know that they sell the property. 38 Avenue Road. I have him buyer to buy a place for $45 million. I don't know how much to sell it for. That's it. And I have a property I sell at 1 Rampart Close,
Montego Bay,
Queen Drive, and Lead Avenue, 1 Rampart Close, Montego Bay. That value over $1 million US, and they sold it. I passed there today and I saw a hotel putting up there. You don't even finish yet. Well, FinSac.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Every son does it, which is why the report is so important. Stop it.
That's what my.
You haven't been told anything.
Nothing up to now. One, Mr. Erskine, that's how they tell. Next door, the Erskine, he buy one rampart close at corner of Lead Avenue. That's it. Yeah, Lead Avenue and Queen Drive. I just have no hotel putting up right there. That's my property. I saw it today for the first time.
Mr. Rose, when you borrowed, what was the interest rate you borrowed at? When you borrowed your money with the bank?
I borrowed my money at the bank at 65%.
65%.
What was it the loan? What did that loan to based on the interest rate?
Well, the interest rate, it went up to 121%.
And you never contemplated that interest rate went up to that level?
No.
And when you were,
but
when
I
you
was
were,
serving.
You saw the contract saying that this is a variable interest rate, that they could increase it if they wanted to.
Yes, sir.
But you were not aware that they would have gone to double that type of amount.
No, sir. But at the same time, two bank manager, Mellon Tapper and Winston McKenzie, they defraud me. They draw 145 million out of my account. So I did have a case with the bank before. Workers Bank, CIBC, and Chapel Bank. 121 million at Workers Bank, and between CIBC and Chapel Bank, they draw the rest.
And that information was given to the inquiry. That information you're telling
Yeah,
us.
everything. The case is in court right now. Mr. Tapper found guilty in the Privy Council last year. The same case.
Wow.
Yeah, I remember that. Bentley Rose.
So I'm working on the civil matter now. And
so you remember that one, Mrs. Baker?
Yeah.
These are real Jamaicans, folks. Real people.
Yeah.
Real people.
The one that I can recall is thermoplastic out in Twickenham Park.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And with thermoplastic, that one was so deceptive, you know. I think the financial difficulties forced the management in certain negotiation. Mm-hmm. And they were there negotiating on top they had a deal. Mm-hmm. And the manager was called to one of the banks.
The bank's office, the bank manager that was dealing with. And when him go there and ask the bank manager, asked him, so how everything going? Everything going all right?
Yeah.
Yes. Him say,
they had him waiting a while.
And by the time he got back to his office, there were two policemen at the gate of his office with guns.
And the guy who was the
donor, what's his name?
Yeah, donor. I remember what role he played, but he was the receiver.
The receiver.
He was the receiver out there. The receiver took over his office.
Right? When he leave the bank, you know, and him got, because when him got there and the bank manager asked him this, him said to himself, but him could have asked me this from the phone. Why did I have to come here for him to ask me this? And by the time him go back at him office, that's when him realized. So when him couldn't get in, him tell the police out there, him say, my briefcase is in there with my medication and my car keys and so. Can you bring them to me? And Donna come out and look at him and say, F you.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that is one of the properties that he sued them. And what happened is when Janet Farrow was head of Jamaica Redevelopment at the time, and Janet Farrow went, when she realized, she went overseas to management to discuss what she must do. And when she came back and the case called up in court the morning, and the judge looked on the paperwork and said, but I'm not saying anything wrong, you're paying your debt, sir. So I'm asking Janet Farrow, how come you come by this man's company? You know, and it's shortly after that she left Jamaica. She never came back.
Well, here's the an excerpt from that story.
Trevor Donegal.
From it because they held on to all your assets and everything. So there's nothing to move anywhere else to continue that banking relation, to continue your business. Mm-hmm. So you are closed down, and because you're unable to move to do anything, mm-hmm. you can't go forward. So you're held there in limbo until you eventually, the debt grow and you're not able to think. As a matter of fact, FinSAC has sold a number of my properties. And up till today, I have not yet received any thing in writing to show the accounts where what
So
went
at the
to
time
principal.
of the takeover of your loan by FinSAC at Horizon, what was your outstanding balance?
My outstanding balance at the time was over 100 million.
And you were servicing that loan?
Well, our loan wasn't really by service per se, like a monthly payment.
Mm-hmm.
It's by selling of units that go towards payments. And at this time of the takeover, we had sold at the Palermo, I think about 18 or 16 units. That up to today, we have not gotten any statement.
Mm-hmm.
Prior to that, we were getting every sale, you will get a statement from the bank and from the attorney to show you, you know, what was received and what was dispersed, and the bank will tell you what went to interest.
So that was discontinued?
That discontinued.
Yeah. So what was your client's experience, Mr. Levy, Jean-Marie Desaulniers of Thermoplastics?
On the day that Richard Downer was appointed receiver and manager of Thermoplastics, the 9th of March, 1998. At the time Mr. Downer went out to the appointment to take over, we were sitting in the office of Jeff Cobham at NCB, talking about business going on and continuing. Shook hands, business as usual. Mr. Cobham and Mr. McFarlane had signed the appointment of receiver, had us in there to get John Desaulniers out of the office, out of his office. And we thought everything was going to be business as usual. There was no default on any loan. Of course, Mr. Downer took out a letter, standard letter by NCB's team in-house lawyer, making a demand at 3 o'clock to satisfy millions of dollars. The company had just finalized arrangements with the assistance of NCB to obtain a loan for $500,000 from Jamaica Development Bank to clear 40-foot containers of raw material off the wharf, which were needed to produce goods. They had to go to NIBJ because NCB was broke at that time. It had no money, could not make the loan. The company assigned millions of dollars of the proceeds of sale of goods. They had orders from gilt-edged companies, Red Stripe for crates, Matalons for pipes, telephone company for pipes, and so on. And it was assigned to be paid to NIBJ, and out of the proceeds of those orders, we would repay the loan of $500,000 to NIBJ and interest. NCB would get payments of within 6 months of $500,000, and the company was getting 20% to cover its overhead expenses. Receiver was appointed entirely politically. Dunbar McFarlane and Mr. Desaulniers has given evidence before the commission. A month after the appointment of Richard Downer, told him, there's nothing wrong with your business plan, there's nothing wrong with your finances, it's politics, it's above me. Political reasons put him in there. But you know, this heartlessness continues. I was flicking channels the other day and accidentally went to a channel, which I don't usually watch, and found myself watching a horror movie. I saw somebody who looked like Wicked Wanda, cross-examining and laughing at a debtor who has lost everything, a Mr. Rose. That was coming out of the FinSAC Commission. I mean, I couldn't just watch it for very long, because it was disgusting to see a professional, a so-called professional, looking at a man who was just given evidence that he's lost everything because of the high interest rates and all the other things that were imposed on him. Like my friend here, he wasn't necessarily a bad businessman, but when the interest rates imposed on the people by the government decisions went up to 90 and 100%, nobody can pay that. And the government has been totally unsympathetic, and I say that for the past and the present government. There's no assistance being given by the present government. They continue to reap the benefits of the collections being made by FinSAC and Jamaican Development Foundation.
Marshall Hall, the lessons from what we're hearing and the experience of the mid-1990s?
Well, I think there's first of all the underlying problem of the very, very dazzlingly high interest rates of that period. And one just has to look at them in relation to what was happening in the rest of the Caribbean and the rest of the world to realize that at interest rates of 100%, it's going to be very, very hard.
Impossible.
To service
unless
your
you run
loan.
an illegal operation.
And, you would have to be able to just pay it out instantly and come out. And so I think that period dramatizes what we should never, ever go into again, those kinds of interest rates. Having said that, though, there is a broader principle of businesses, their exposure, and a recognition that what we need is to have more entrepreneurs, more people going into business, more people venturing in. We don't have a venture capital regime of any kind in Jamaica, and therefore, when people go into business, it is their own savings, their assets that oftentimes allows them to enter. And therefore, when you borrow as a company, the company would normally have, because it's a company, its liabilities are limited to the assets of the company. The financial institution routinely says, no, hold on a minute, your assets are not good enough, particularly if you're a small and medium-sized entity, and therefore you have to provide guarantee in the form of your house, in the form of your other assets, and those guarantees are often unlimited. When you combine an unlimited guarantee regime with the very high interest rates, then of course you have fire and destruction takes place. But forgetting FinSac for a moment, if we just recognize that in a society like ours, where we need to have new entrepreneurs daily, then those entrepreneurs need to be protected by the principle of the unlimited guarantee that a company has. When you go outside that and have a guarantor with no limit on the liability of the guarantor, then even when the Bank of Jamaica says you can no longer record that loan in your assets, and so it is taken out of the bank's assets, let's say, the bank, however, still has recourse to collect from the guarantor. Mm-hmm. And that, of course, is a problem. And so we have two issues. One is the unlimited guarantee of the guarantor, and then the ability of the institution to charge interest rates which have nothing to do with what has happened to the particular business, but has to do with what has happened to the economy, as was said earlier.
Wow.
Remember what I told you about JRF, Jamaica Redevelopment, charging interest.
Yes.
It's illegal. You're not supposed to.
What say you on that, Darlan?
Well, what I can do, me very political, so we just say young people who want to see what PNP can do. That is what PNP can do. Look at the cadre of men paraded before with us now. A man like Dr. Marshall, the man who run CPJ. Look at CPJ. Look at the kind of business that have him grown to. And the other gentlemen talking about thermoplastic and all that. These are guys. It's not like black man can run business. It's not like Jamaicans can run business.
But do you know who the entrepreneurs of thermoplastics is now? Who they are now?
No.
Okay, I won't tell you.
No, you can't know us that.
No. Who won't say it? Who won't say it, Miss Yula?
I can't.
Save that one. I know.
You have to go email me that one.
No, you save that one. Do you know that there's a company which was out of 3 Mile that does Serve Well? You remember Serve Well?
Yeah.
That was
I think Rhea did used to operate it.
Russell. Yeah.
Ray,
Russell.
I think it was Ray. Oh no. It might very well be Russell. Anyway, when I did.
Well, folks, we are at 10:30 and we've kept Miss Yula Baker up for quite a while. We appreciate you. We still have quite a few persons in the chat here rumbling along, but we're gonna cut you guys loose because we want to make sure that you get adequate rest. Mrs. Baker, just in case that event coming up, that special event coming up very soon.
I'll let you know when
Yeah,
I'm
man.
ready. And
Just keep-
Mr. Francis, I'll get your contact information from Mr. Chopper.
Yeah, man.
Okay.
I
Oh,
will
yes.
pass.
Yes, please do. I'd really love to know who is there now.
Yeah, man. I will pass that information on to you. But I give you your last word, Miss Francis, Miss Baker. Sorry.
Just to say that you guys seem to be encouraged by Mr. Clark's promise. I don't know that I am really. You know, I have, as I say, my motto is been there, done that, seen it, had it, and had it done to me. What can I say?
Well, I'm gonna maintain some optimism, and I hope I'm right.
I hope so too. I hope I'm going to hope on your side tonight.
Thank you.
Okay, so nice talking to you guys.
Yeah, man. Well, thank you again, Mrs. Baker.
Have a good night, Mrs. Baker.
Okay, Mr. Francis.
Good
All right.
night,
Thank you.
good night, Mrs. Baker. Mr. Willis gone?
No, man, Mr. Willis is still here.
Willis
Mr. Willis. Sir Willis.
Man, good night.
Sorry to keep you out in the dark there, man, but
Mr. Willis, you can't
Well,
come in tomorrow at all.
I really wanted to come in, but you keep me out. But it's okay, man. The next time I will be around.
Yeah.
you'll be around, man. Don't worry. There's enough
Yeah, man.
time. And we'll take
Right,
enough
right.
time for everybody, you know.
Yeah, because I hear some very interesting point made there, you know. And I want also make some comment on it, but it's okay. Another time I will do.
I give you a minute, man. If there's one that you want to jump in on, please go right ahead. Mrs. Baker, whenever you're ready, feel free. But go ahead, man. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, one of the thing what was said, like in the 80s there,
yes,
is a set of greedy people. It's not that some of these people never know what they were doing. Is a planned thing to enrich themselves and make the rest of the other set of people poor. There's a lot of things that done in the 70s there, in the 80s there.
You mean
in the
the
90s,
the
in the
90s?
90s, sorry,
Yes,
the 90s.
Yes.
Especially this one we talk about the going around and buying monies.
Buying dollars, yes.
It was buying the dollars. It was a true thing, and that is what was one of the things that ruined the country so much, because the government didn't have any money to run the country. And every time a budget come up, they have to borrow money to run the budget. So they have to go around and get the dollars. So there was a jostle between the bank and the government.
Yes.
Buying the dollars. Because at those time, you know, I was doing business down by Chulani. And they were down there going to the hotels to buy the dollars. Right? And the back door. So the bank will buy for a price this week. And the government buy for another price. And so as soon as the bank go up, the government go up.
Yes.
And that is it. And Omar Davis could not manage that.
Well, let me tell you what was happening right in that period to Mr. Missick. Did you know that the operatives from the Bank of Jamaica who were buying the dollars, both of them were standing outside the craft market in Ocho Rios? One set of guys buying for BOJ and one set buying for Century National. Hear the joke. The Century National guys buying for $21, let's say. And the Bank of Jamaica guys buying for $23.
That's right.
The guy who the Century National, I see this with my own eyes, you know. There was a Chinese man in Ocho Rios who beat a guy to inches of his life. Why? He gave this guy some money to purchase dollars. He was standing outside a CO supermarket in Ocho Rios, right beside the craft market there.
Right.
He was purchasing dollar for this Chinese man. But the Bank of Jamaica guy was purchasing at a higher rate. So when he purchased a certain amount of money, you know what he did? He sold it back to the Bank of Jamaica guy right there on the spot.
and get the
Right away.
Yes,
But
yes,
what
it's true.
happened was the money that he got from the Chinaman to purchase the dollar. The
Abuse it.
The Chinaman marked the money.
Yeah,
So he
okay.
knew how many notes he gave him. And when he
Right.
brought back to him to say, boy, no go on. But what he did, he made his money already, you know.
The government should
Yeah.
hire him to become the Minister of Finance.
Telling you, man, let me tell you.
But
Look,
but
I
but
lived
listen,
like this.
but look here. Do you remember that Omar Davis was parachuted in the government to as a finance minister?
Yes, he was.
Because the finance minister before resigned because he could not take what was going on.
Couldn't deal with
Right.
it.
And so them parachuting Omar Davis, and he comes in with that force.
Yeah.
Well, Mr. Perkins said the
It's a force.
world-class
He,
finance
yeah, man, he
minister.
was the world class financial minister, man.
Mr. Perkins,
And
the world-class
and as you can see, him have this money crafter who behind him, Golden.
Well, he had the
with his
engineer.
own mouth.
He was a financial engineer.
Engineer, right? Engineer,
It's not
yeah.
my words, you know. It is his words. He
It's
said
his
it.
word. He's the engineer, yeah, of course.
Yeah, he said it, not me. So I don't want anybody to leave here thinking I am.
None of us. It's
going
his
that
own
way.
word.
He said it. He said he was a financial engineer
Engineer.
of the 1990s.
Yes.
Orchestrate
So-
and organize what is considered financial engineering.
Yes,
my
yes.
word.
It's his own words.
His own words.
I see you.
And I don't know if you remember this word, run with it.
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
Okay.
Run with
Right.
it and fix it. You know, we'll fix it when we get in. We'll.
As bad
There it is.
Because although I came into the party through Dr. Omar Davis, because I knew him in the financial sector, where I had been like one of the leading corporate lawyers in Jamaica and very involved in financial engineering. And so when he was Minister of Finance, a lot of the things that required industry input, I was one of the representatives of the industry that he would deal with. I got to know him through that. And that's how I got into the PNP really.
Well, not my words, unless it's an
That
AI
is
generated clip. Not my
Wait,
words.
wait, Chopper.
Right.
It will be interesting. It will be interesting to know if Market G had anything to do with the forward selling of bauxite.
I'm just simply saying, Mr. Francis, he said he was the engineer.
Engineer.
Yeah.
Not
So
my
we want to
word,
know if he was one of those who engineered the forward selling of bauxite on which Jamaica lost $700 million US.
Quite likely.
Who knows?
I don't know.
Who knows?
I don't know.
$700 million US. We want to know if he was the engineer. We want to know if he was the engineer who failed to put in an escalating clause in the forward sale.
Your
We
guess
don't know.
is as good as mine, Mr.
Your
Francis.
guess is good at all. But all we know, he was an
We
engineer.
should do some research on that one.
We will. We will.
He was a financial engineer. That's all we know.
Well,
and we know that period wasn't good at all.
His engineering cost you.
And we know that Omar Davis forward sold bauxite, and it cost the Jamaican people $700 million US. $700 million.
Right.
And that potato fell in Bruce Golden lap. You understand? So we want to know if these are some of the things that them say time come for.
For us to go back to FinSac?
Well,
yeah, time come
we
for
wouldn't.
some financial engineers, some more things. We want if that is one of them.
Well, boy, I tell you something.
Yes, go ahead.
I wouldn't like to see those years come back again.
Well, like
those
I said,
years is not anything good. And the next thing again, the reason why the country not moving as it should, there are a lot of people not going to use their asset to borrow money again to do business as we used to do. Nobody don't going to put up the valuable property and so on and so on to borrow money against it to do business. So business will always stand on the chance that we would take in those days. The people not doing it again.
Yes.
So the country won't move as
As I
fast
said before,
as
it
it
is
is.
one of the reasons why the growth is so small. And I
That's
think
right.
I think one of the things that will have to be done, in addition to coming with some financial products that can help out business, we might have to visit the bankruptcy law. We might have to have things like Chapter 11 bankruptcy so that people, the thing like Finch can't, that man just suck out everything a person had.
Right, right.
There got to be a limit,
There have to be
yeah. So we might need to do some of that, some Chapter 11 bankruptcy laws and revisit the bankruptcy laws of Jamaica, because the truth is, Mr. Melik, I hope
Willis.
I'm getting the name. Melis?
Willis.
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 Mr. Willis. Yeah. The truth is, the Jamaica people are venture shy.
Yes.
As you rightfully point out, the people are afraid to venture.
That is so.
And we
Because
are
they don't
relying
know
on the
what.
foreigners to come here to invest.
Yeah, right. And this is it again. They never know when the government will change, and if the government change, what will happen with this this new crafty government.
Yes.
You
Yes,
understand?
I think that the Jamaica people need to be aware of it. They're not to be flippant about time come and then you bring on two Batman and things, say, well, this is time for it and all them kind of things.
But the
And you
thing is,
bring some criminal come and hype in the thing,
pose them up.
and you think this is time for it. The Jamaica people, especially the youth,
yes, they're not
you
having
better
it.
you better be mindful of what happened. The fact is,
but look here. If you're making a song and you have the chorus, you should have some lyrics behind it.
Yes.
But they just have the chorus, but nothing behind it.
Well, Mr.
Time
Messick,
come for what?
I can tell you, Mr. Messick, you can prepare yourself because there's a couple of events coming up. And I've asked my dear sister, Petal, to speak to you on it because it is going to be interesting. I think you have suffered enough. You did nothing wrong. You did what any ambitious Jamaican should do. Your story is something that needs to guide Jamaica's future. And we are going to do whatever we can in our way to ensure that your story is used as one of the reasons, darling, that we should not make those mistakes again. So we thank you.
I will appreciate it so much, man, and I will be there. Whenever that event come up, just let me know and I will be there.
We will make it up, man. You don't have to worry yourself. We will ensure that it happens. So stay tuned, guys. Folks in the chat, you will be notified. You will know. And we are going to ensure that Mr. Willis gets the assistance that we think he deserves. He is a victim of the system. A victim of the government during the 1990s.
A victim of PNP mismanagement.
That is so.
Darla, you like to say it straight up. I agree with you.
Yeah.
No diplomacy there.
Yeah.
And I would say,
and comrades, we're not going back. Look at time come.
We're not going back.
Time gonna come little more. We're not going back because PNP. The fact of the matter is, the PNP does not know how to run a government. The PNP don't know how to plunder the resources of the state.
Yes.
And how to set up their genetically connected supporters. They don't know how to run a government. And we're going to remind the Jamaica people of that.
Yeah, the only thing they know to do is to enrich themselves. And they know them use it around to say other people is doing it, but it's what they are doing. They are telling people, but in a cynical way.
Yeah, we call it projection.
Yes.
They're accusing others of doing what they would have done.
Exactly.
And what they are doing, what they did, and wanted to do some more.
Yes.
They did that before
Chuck
and
always
still want to do some more.
said they either planning to do it or they have done it already.
Yes. Yes.
Or they're doing
Loving
it
one
right
is in the
now.
chat too. Is in the box here with us to Petal. We haven't heard from him all evening. I think he was trying to come in earlier, but his mic was out. Loving one, how you doing? Well, it doesn't seem like he's here with us. But Petal, thank you again for the hard work. Thank you for helping us keeping this story alive.
Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Misick. Thank you, Mr.
Yeah.
Willis, for
Yes,
keeping us.
and I will say again, thanks to those people who contribute to me, and I very much appreciate it.
Yes,
and
man.
very, very thankful, you know.
No problem, and there's some more to come. There's another $10,000 that was supposed to be delivered to you a couple days now, and it has not been. But I'm assuring you that that will come to you as well. My mother,
Okay.
who said she came by and she saw you and spoke to you.
Yes, 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 yes.
Yes.
Yes,
My mother
man, she did.
is a champion, you know. She's a champion when it comes
Yes.
to things, you know. But big up yourself, Mama Betts. Good to know that you're tracking what we are doing and you endorse it 100%. Mr. Willis.
That's right.
Keep on doing what you're doing, and we will do what we have to do on our side to see as best as possible how we can assist. And again, personally appreciate the persons who donated and who contribute to the cause. There's we're going further with it. We want to take it, as I've said from the first week, that our objective is to highlight his situation and bring it to the highest level, and we are on the way to doing that. So stay tuned. Next week is going to be active. Thank you, Mr. Willis. Much respect to you.
Thank you very much, sir. Thanks.
Thank you, guys. Mr. Willis, we'll talk tomorrow, okay?
Yes, man. Yes, man. We will.
All right.
Good night,
take it easy, sir.
Yes, and everybody a good night rest, and God be with us all.
Good night, Mr. Willis.
Yeah, man. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Good night.
All right. Loving one, you still there? All right. Loving one is not there.
Chopper TikTok after, okay?
Yeah, man. Darlan H. Francis, my partner in crime.
Boy, Chopper.
Yes.
Tonight I drop in the Viper's Nest.
Yes.
I went on a platform run by a guy named Chef.
Yes.
He come where them didn't let me get out a word sideways.
Well, guess what? We are going over to TikTok now.
Here's
so
the
all
thing.
200 of you here, join us over on TikTok, Chops Media. We're heading over there now where we're going to deal with those comrades the way they are to be done.
Yes, the thing here now, one of the things, you know, I see the leader put the thing before the courts, but
yes,
but the political response must continue.
Darlan, I want you to bring it over to TikTok now because I'm going to give you the
political matter.
I'm going to give you the platform over on the TikTok page now, so you can deal with those comrades.
I will join you
fulsomely. Maximum respect to you. Petal, my dearest. Thank you as always for your support.
All right, Chops. See you over TikTok.
TikTok in a few minutes. Jenka folks, it was nice. It was nice. My good friend Tiger said it is important to be nice, but it's also nice to be important. I don't know how to measure it up, but maximum respect to you all. And let's see, boom, bam, connect. Yeah, man. So thank you all for joining us. It's been a great evening. We're gonna head on over to to the tick and the tack. Let's see what's going on here, right here. I don't know. Anyhow, yeah. But much respect to y'all. Thank you. Marlene, thank you, Betsy Powell, Wendy, Peter, Orlando Peters, Angel reacting. Good to see ya. Who else is here? Billy Boys, Val Rose, my sister, Wagwan, Mikey Brown Sr., Willa Will, good to see you as well, man. Thank you all for joining us. Thank you all for participating. Happy to have brought this one to you. Jadi, big up yourself. Happy to have brought this one to you this evening again. Another one in the bag. Mr. Pinnock Maxwell Lloyd, big up yourself. Good to see you as well. Joseph Wagwan, good to see you. Everybody, appreciate the love. Devon McLennan, big up yourself. Mikey Brown, the senior one. Enough respect. Thank you, Mikey. That promo is a bomb. That promo is big. Carl Muir, big up yourself. Thank you very much. It's a big show. It's a good show because of you guys. Thank you for participating. Thank you for showing us the love. Thank you for sharing the program as well. And for those of you who have not followed us on YouTube here, please go ahead and hit that follow button. You make sure you hit that notification bell. That simply means every time we post a video or every time we go live, you'll be the first to get notified. We are intensifying our program. We are going to be going harder this year. We're looking at interviewing some of the players. We're looking at the 1990s. And rest assured, we're going to go back to the 1970s. We want to go back to 1976. State of emergency, when Jamaicans were locked up. Some of them were sent into exile. Want to interview persons like Pernell Charles, Babsy Grange, and others who felt the heavy hand of the PNP during the 1976 state of public emergency. So rest assured, we're not going to stop. We're going to keep the drive going. Gentle folks, on the 27th of October, St. James Central, an Area Council 4 meeting and St. James Central Constituency Conference will be on. It's going to be the conference before the conference at the Kernaldi Avenue Primary School in Montego Bay. Come out. There are going to be speakers from all area councils, speakers like Dr. Horace Chang, speakers like Minister Edmund Bartlett, speakers like Rhoda Moy Crawford, speakers like Carencia Morrison, speakers like Virgo is going to be in the building. Who else? Let me pull that flyer up, because I need to give you guys the actual persons who are going to be there. Let me find that flyer real quick. Where is that? But yes, it's going to be exciting. Let me look for that over here. Management. Boom, bang, bang. Where is it? Where is that flyer, folks? I mean, I can't find the flyer. What's going on? Where is that flyer? All right, let me find that flyer right here. All right, so because I want to make sure I give you all the players. Okay, there you have it. So on the 27th of October, Sunday, the 27th of October, at the Kernaldi Avenue Primary School, 11 a.m. we'll be starting Area Council 4 meeting, the private session. And then at about 3 o'clock in the evening, the place is going to be lit. We're going to have speakers like J.C. Hutchinson, speakers like Edmund Bartlett, the Deputy Prime Minister of Jamaica, Dr. Horace Chang, the firebrand Miss Carencia Morrison, the Agriculture Minister himself, Mr. Floyd Green, from Manchester Central, the one who slew the giant, Miss Rhoda Moore Crawford, the newly minted water boss, the Minister of Water, the man himself, Mr. Matthew Samuda, he'll be in the building. The Senator, the man who represents the Senate himself. Yes, Senator Charles Sinclair is going to be in the building. Colonel Charles Jr., the Minister himself, is going to be in the building. Frank Witter, the man from St. Elizabeth, is going to be in the building. And ladies and gentlemen, one of our specially invited guests, Venetia Phillips, is going to be here. She's going to lit a fire under the PNP. Yes, Mr. Jonathan Bartley, the Deputy Mayor of Falmouth, the Deputy Mayor of Trelawney, is going to be here. Yes, and look here. We can't have a conference. We can't have a conference without my very good friend, Colin Virgo. Colin Virgo is going to be here. He's going to be hosting this one. He is going to be hosting this one. Ladies and gentlemen, the three powerful councillors of St. James Central. The three powerful councillors of St. James Central, headed by the mayor himself, Richard Vernon. He's going to be in the building. The man himself, the newly minted councillor for the Salt Spring Division, Gregory Harris, is going to be in the building. And the man himself, the second-time councillor, the hard-working councillor from the Montego Bay South Division, none other than one Arthur Lynch, is going to be in the building. And let me tell you, there are going to be a slew of other speakers who we just cannot fit on this flyer right here, because Minister Malahoo Forth is going to be in the building. I gather that Miss Crystal Lee is going to be in the building. Yes. So make it a date, and don't you ever be late. October 27th. Era Council 4 meeting and Central St. James Constituency Conference will be lit. Yes, it will be live right here on Chops Media. And it will be live on the Member of Parliament's page as well. It's going to be a very good conference. Come for the substance. Don't come for the hype. Come for the substance. And there's going to be a very special guest. A very, very, very interesting and special guest. So stay tuned. See you all on the 27th of October at the Colonel Avenue Primary School, Central St. James Constituency Conference and Area Council 4 meeting. Don't you miss it. This one is going to be a bombshell. This one is going to be a bombshell. So big up yourself, everybody. Miss Violet Facey, big up yourself. Marlene P, big up yourself. Bally Foster and all my good friends over there at the Z, big up yourself. All my Chaps Media family, big up yourself. If you're on YouTube, you need to make sure that you're following our YouTube channel. And also click that notification bell to ensure that every time we go live, you will be notified. And if you have not gone over to our TikTok page to make sure that you're following us, please do that immediately. Oh, dang, did I lost that thing just now? Please head over to our, oh my word. I hope I didn't lose my TikTok connection. Oh, yeah, I just did. But anyhow, let's get back to that. I hope. Oh, wow. But anyhow, we are back. So we are on TikTok. Head over to TikTok, folks. Join us. I don't know what happened there, Mikey. It just went Google's all a while ago. But anyhow, jump over to TikTok. The link is back up. The link is back up and running. I'm going to share the link right here now to make sure that everybody is on it. Wow, I don't know what happened there a while ago, everybody. But yeah. We just got duped. I don't know what happened. Don't kill me. But yeah. But anyhow, we are back up and running. We are over there on TikTok. So you all please join us on our TikTok page and let's do the do. Let me share that. I hope I'll be able to share the link here. I don't know if I can, but I will definitely try to see if I can drop that link right here in the chat. And so you guys can hop over there. No, we can't. But anyhow, it's 150 of you over here. Please head on over to TikTok, Chops Media. Share it, everybody. Tap up the screen and share the live. Once you tap up the screen, we're going to get the live up to where we need to get it to, and we should be fine. So, yeah, tap up the screen, everybody. Mikey Brown is in the building. Darlan H. Francis is in the building right away. Darlan H. is here. Mikey Brown is here as well. I don't know if Mikey's going to come in there, but let me just go ahead and share. But Darlan, yeah, man, you have it. It's all yours. All right, good night, everybody. Thank you all for joining. Blessed love.